Welcome back to the Orange Bumper Podcast. I'm Philip Dixon, along with Burt Meyer. Why was that funny?
You had to remind everybody who you were because you ain't been here for 2 weeks.
Well, if you wouldn't have put me on probation for 2 weeks.
Well, after seeing that beach picture.
I got bumped from the middle chair.
After seeing that beach picture, you were on probation.
I got a standing ovation. Thank you very much.
All right. Let's move on.
No, let's not talk about that.
No, it's okay.
You want me to show the picture?
You mean the accessories that came with it? Is that what you want to show?
The what?
The accessories that came with it.
That was impressive.
Yeah, let's move on.
Not everybody's built for a Speedo, I can tell you that. So, big week this week. We've got a very special guest on with us. We've got Bad Brad Smith, the owner of Velocita, and also the former voice of Madhouse. Anybody that's watched Madhouse has seen Brad on there and has a real unique perspective on that TV show.
I had brown hair and was a lot skinnier then too. So
Burt had hair.
Yeah, he did. He did have hair actually.
And mine was probably a lot shorter.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, racing a bunch of different disciplines. Primarily dirt, but has involved in the karting world. Used to race modifieds, 4 cylinders, a whole 9 yards. So
he's got a steering wheel. We'll try it. I even did Roy Hill's drag racing school 2 years ago. Just say, if you've never been,
I never raced in a straight line before.
It's really the Roy Hill racing experience. It's not really much of a school. You sit in a room for 30 minutes and they throw you in a dragster, dude. That's pretty cool though, man. So yeah, just if it's got a steering wheel, we'll try anything once. We don't care.
That's our kind of guy. But before we get into talking to Brad,
we had some stuff from the stadium this past weekend that probably needs to be clarified and explained a little bit. And I'm gonna let Burt explain all that because it's over my head, and he'll maintain his patience a lot better than I will. So, kind of
try.
Kind of explain what happened. It revolved around a scoring issue.
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody in the stands and at home thought you finished 9th in the second race.
You might want to set that up and just let them know that we're probably one of the last short tracks in America that does not use transponders.
Correct.
We are still line scored.
Mm-hmm.
3 humans are writing down numbers as cars go across. So when you think about that from a short track standpoint, and anybody who's ever been on my race pass, those are transponder driven tracks, thousands.
Right.
So we're not. We're still line scored by 3 humans. So
and why do we use why are transponders so popular?
They're accurate. I mean,
to avoid disputes.
And
right?
our facility is set up for them. We just ran the Clash. We also put them in for the
they were in
or the Wheeling race
05
years ago.
05.
We do have a loop. So transponders are expensive. I understand that. There would be some cost, but we don't have transponders. So it does leave it open to interpretation. Right. And as Burt's going to allude, maybe sometimes some scoring issues.
And in some of my communication back and forth, I address that. If you're not going to have transponders and you're going to rely on people, then mistakes can be made.
Absolutely.
But as you'll see here in just a minute when I get into this, that it's okay that mistakes are made. We all make mistakes. I'll make mistakes today. But when we realize a mistake's been made,
got to own it.
So let me set the stage for what you're getting to get into. Okay. Second modified race. There's an incident.
Mm-hmm.
You have a right rear tire goes down.
Mm-hmm.
Under caution, you come in. Right rear tire gets changed. You get back out, still under caution.
Mm-hmm.
No green flag. Laps have transpired since. Race keeps going. You finish what
9th.
Presumably with 9th with the video and what everybody thought is 9th, and then you come to find out you've been scored in 15th.
Yep.
So.
Okay. So, just so we don't get twisted here, these are not my opinions. These are facts. And just like any other time I've ever had to go through this, and people, this is not something I enjoy doing. Okay. Going through situations like this are not fun. I'm going to sound very passionate because I am passionate, but at the same time, this is a negative situation. It's not a positive situation, but I want everybody to know that these are not Burt Myers' opinions. What I'm going to tell you is facts, and it's all going to be the truth. So I put it that way because my opinion doesn't matter. The facts and the truth is what matters, and it's up to whoever else is listening to determine how they want to view it. Now, if you're a Duke and Carolina fan, and Duke player fouls a Carolina player, the Carolina fan's going to see it different. So
Absolutely.
everybody's going to see it different. So that's why my opinion doesn't matter. Your opinion, none of our opinions matter. You can give your opinion. It's fair. Everybody has an opinion. But at the same time, it's not my opinion. These are facts. So basically, the way Bowman Gray, for as long as we can remember, Bowman Gray posts the finishing order on their little bulletin board inside the field house. And they put a timestamp. So I'm giving the disclaimers up front because this is what they hung their hat on. When I say they, Bowman Gray management. They post it, they put a timestamp on it, and you have 15 minutes to dispute that finish. Okay, well, I've been racing there almost 30
And
years.
I never knew there was a
Have you ever
15
been in
minute.
there and looked at the,
I mean, my first race there
unless you knew
was 1990. I've never heard it said. Never heard there was a
Okay,
15-minute
so
time.
that's
stamp
what I was
to it.
told.
Yeah.
And that's fair. If that's the rule, that's the rule.
Yeah.
Okay. But if you go out and you lead every lap and you win the race, would you go in there and check the board?
There'd be no reason
Okay.
to.
Same with me. I knew in our situation, I knew where we finished. I knew where other guys finished. And me and Brad were talking about before we went on air that drivers and teams probably know more about
We police each
rules
other
and-
way
and-
better than the officials
right,
ever will.
rules and
Yes.
procedures and scoring than most officials because we police each other. So anyway, that being said, because this is going to take a minute to get through, and I'm going to try to make it as short as possible and still get my message across. My dad used to go in at the end of the night. And if anybody who's been to Bowman Gray knows that we get out of there at midnight sometimes because fans come down after the race and we're signing autographs and meet and greet and whatnot. So Saturday night, by the time we get loaded and by the time we're doing all this stuff, my dad used to go into the field house, and my dad was pretty meticulous about it. They've got a sheet and they hand you an envelope and you sign your name beside the payout to say that you received the money. My dad would count the money, put it back in the envelope. So whenever me and Jason both were now racing, he had to do that twice on a twin 25 night. That's 4 envelopes. My dad can't physically do it anymore, so now my mom does it. My mom goes in, she gets the money for me, Jason, Slate, the 3, and the 11. On a twin 25 night, that's 10 envelopes. Okay. You also, I'm the past champion. I get $100 for showing up each week. You have to sign for that too. At the end of the night, we're packing up. We're about done. Fans are dispersing. And my mom hands Kim, my wife, the envelopes. Said, here's y'all's envelopes. Kim puts them in her money bag. We go home. We get home. Kim's getting everything situated. She's unpacking her bag. And I look down and I see it said mod number 1. And it had a 2 and it had a dollar amount, which I'm embarrassed to say what the dollar amount.
Yeah, it's pretty weak.
But anyway, it said, so second place, dollar amount. I see Slates laying there. I see the 11 car laying there. And I look and it said mod number 1, 15 with a dollar amount. I said, Kim, what is this? Now, the reason I know where I finished, everybody watching on Flow knows where I finished. Everybody sitting in the stands knows where I finished. All my competitors know where I finished. Kim writes down, she's got an index card, and when the finish is over, she writes down the finishes for both races because Bowman Gray does an average finish for each race. The average of each race gets first place points. So you might finish 4th and 4th and get an 8 and might get first place points because you had the best average. So Kim had the sheet laying there, her thing laying there, and I had the 15. I said, Kim, what is the deal? Now, the reason that this car is relevant because he's the point leader and I'm second is the 04. First race, I finished second. And he finished 4th. The second race, he finished 7th and I finished 9th. Well, that's the same average. But the first race trumps the second race. So I know I gained 2 points on Brandon Ward. Brandon knows I gained 2 points. Everybody there knows I gained 2 points. So, okay. So I'm like, man, what's going on? So it's almost 1 o'clock in the morning. I pick up the phone and I call the competition director. I said, hey, man, I really apologize. I know it's late. We got a problem. Because instead of gaining 2 points, if I'm scored 15th, I'm going to lose a ton of points. Because my
pile,
average
yeah.
is going to kill my average. I was told, hey, I know it's late. I'll get with the chief scorer and we'll see if we can figure out what's going on. Great. Thank you. So I get a text at 8:51 Sunday morning with a picture of this sheet that my mom did sign that says, this is the payoff from last night. This is how the finish was scored. I'm not sure anything can be done right now, something should have been said before you signed for your money at that point, which is valid. But at the same time, it was a mistake made on their end, not our end. And it said, but I'll have the chief scorer recheck it anyway. So I'm feeling a little comfort in that, okay? Because now we're at 8:51 Sunday morning. And in that conversation at 1 o'clock in the morning, I said, look, here's what you have to understand. If you fix this now, okay, I'm not asking you to change the outcome of the race. I'm asking you to fix a scoring issue. If you fix this now and you drop them down and you insert me in ninth, nobody's going to question it because everybody there saw me finish ninth.
They know what the deal was.
Okay?
Yeah.
So before you publish points, fix it now. So I get this and whatnot. So I said, it basically shows me a lap down. And what I mean by that is the last car racing on the racetrack at that night was the 99. He was 15th. They had me 15th. So that, I'm like, all right, so what they've done here, they must have put me a lap down. They must have scored me a lap down.
And
Now,
you pitted under caution.
yes, so
And
Devin's
Madhouse
gonna show
Scramble,
this in
twin
this-
25s, we don't count cautions.
Caution, they do not count caution laps to 225. So what happened is prior to this accident, my brake balance bar broke. And without getting too technical, I basically had 10% brake. Had no brakes. We go into corner. Slate gets turned around. And I get turned around. And Devin, if you got it, if you can show it and then stop it. Yeah, let's see flows. It shows me getting turned through the grass. The caution comes out, and I drive into the pits under caution.
We've got Randy Butner making that all-time start tonight. Wants to cap it off with a win. Not only that, we've got the young guns behind, beating each other's bumpers in, trying to become one of their first wins could be tonight.
Riley Neal still
I guess it's
looking
gotta
for
be the
his
next
first
lap.
modified win. So
You
is
just want to
fourth
show a
generation
little extra,
driver
didn't you?
Slate Myers. They are second and third
All
right
right.
now. Neal, the white car, giving the
Promote
number
flow a
6
little
a
bit.
shot through the north turn. Who's
Oh,
going
is there a
to-
brake
Okay.
issue there?
Now, here's the-
more than a shot.
A south turn spin.
Brown
for
goes
Caution's
by.
out.
Bird
See,
gets
caution's
hit.
out.
Bird gets hit.
Caution's
Bird
out. I'm
gets
sitting
hit.
here. You do not see the leader. Okay, the leader has not even got to the
Right
start finish
rear.
line
Let's
yet.
hope that the
Right?
rear end's not
Caution's
damaged.
out. My
He's
right
off
rear's
and
down,
rolling. That's big for your points leader.
which he called me the
Drama
points
for
leader, but
your
I'm second. That's okay,
second
JB.
place man. Burt Myers has a right rear tire down. Nerf bar damage to the right side of that Citrusafe number 1.
He may have some rear end damage too. That was a heavy hit that Dean Ward gave, but
It doesn't look like it's wobbling, so I hope it's not cattywampus, but we will see here. That was an amazing moment here.
You can
that
see the
just
guy down there at the
erupted
barrier
after
waving
a
the caution
spin.
flag.
Yeah, the caution's out.
Yeah.
And there's the
Front
leader
bumper
just
of
now
Riley
passing
Neal,
me,
the
but I'm in the
number 6
pits, and they
car
don't count
went around.
cautions at Bowman Gray Stadium.
Right.
Not in
Okay.
2025. 199, 150 only, yes.
125s at Bowman Gray, they don't count cautions.
At the
Now,
Madhouse.
Let's be honest here. We're not going to sugarcoat anything. There's been some words shared on social media between the Myerses and the Neals here, but mainly.
but this shows me, this shows my guys.
Right.
I'm trying to make sure they put the right tire on because I don't have any brakes and I'm going to be starting last. I had a mock-up set. I said, do not put that mock-up tire on the car. Put the older tire on the car. So this is why it's taking a little longer.
Both
But you can
sophomores
see that we're
and
still under the
seniors
same
were
caution.
Last year.
Now, I could easily have Devin
And
fast
right
forward
now,
this,
Burt
but I don't want to do
Myers
that.
is
It's going to take a
behind
minute.
the field house.
So,
The laps
I can
do
kind
not
of explain
count.
it why
Let's
it's
take a
going
look
on.
at the replay here
All
and
right, hold
see
on.
what happened between Slate Myers, who was in the black 6 car, a little contact.
Oh, he got into him going in, but what blows my mind is watch this here. Boom! Dean Ward into the right rear.
All right. Yellow lights are
Darren
on.
Redmond
Yellow lights are on.
slides, Barely
There's
misses
it.
Burt.
Listen, even if Randy
Dean
Butler
Ward
passes me right
covered
there,
that
we're under
right
caution.
rear of Burt Myers.
Listen.
He's back behind the field house right now. The team is furiously working on it, examining the damage, assessing it. But what blows my mind is also between Riley Neal and Slate, the Myerses let Riley Neal borrow a car one night.
So this goes on and on. I'm trying to catch. They talk about me being in the pits,
Right.
and the fact that cautions don't count. So they address this. You hear that? 17 laps on the board. So I went in the pits during this caution, and they're saying 17 laps on the board. So we all heard that, correct?
Most starts.
Correct.
So we'll just let it run here because they do talk about
Here at Bowman
I don't want to
Gray
miss it, but
Madhouse,
they
as you
talk.
see Dean Ward assessing
The
his
commentators
damage.
talk about me being in the
Dean Ward, one of
pits,
the great veterans.
Well, and-
questioning whether I'm going to get back out or not.
Obviously, flow is not an official scoring, but the point of showing this is it's all right there.
It's all right there.
I mean, it's all right
And
there.
Bowman Gray has set a precedence earlier this year.
I will say that's a really good looking fire suit Dean Ward's wearing right there. Just to
Isn't that
comment
nice?
on that. So yes,
I've noticed how they all are very
Guys,
slimming.
They are, very.
Especially on Burt.
Very. Makes him look taller.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Big Red's going to hook him up.
So
Unfortunate
Bowman Gray has set a
here for
precedence
Dean.
earlier this year even
One of
that
the
they
nice
will
guys
go back
there,
and look at
tough,
video
tough
and review
competitor.
video to make a decision. They've already set that precedent
Tough
But
competitor.
to make the
Yes.
right decision.
to make the
He's
right
only
call,
driver I
right?
know
So
when I was a flagman down there, he would be driving with.
so we're still under
one
caution,
hand
and I'm still in the
to win in a
pits.
race
Let's just
here.
be clear. Same caution.
And at this point,
We're
honestly,
going
there's no
one
reason to
to
rush
go
because
here.
we know the caution's
They're
in
All
the
right.
gonna
count.
hurry up this
Here
race
comes Burt.
with 17 laps on the
Same
board.
caution.
We've got Dean on the hook. Burt Myers, as you see there, getting back into the race. Looks like the team gave the thumbs up that it's okay to get back out there on the track.
It changed the right rear tire that was down on that car. I'm wondering that Nerf bar is jacked up there.
Still lap
but
17.
It didn't look
Still
like
lap
the Nerf
17.
bar was wedged back. You know, sometimes with these Nerf bars in the modifieds, they could kind of get hemmed up and pushed into the tire, and it didn't look like
And-
that was the case for that number one.
It just looked like the right rear.
So
took
we had
a lot of
another
that
video to
impact
show
there. So the question
that
is, how does
showed
it handle
Devin. I don't know that we even need to show that
How does
because
that
the
car
other video
handle
showed the same thing,
after
but it
a
showed the
hit
board
like
actually
that?
had
Right.
17 on the board.
And
But
we see
you
him
clearly
work
they've
it back and
right.
said
forth.
17. So if you want to go back and watch it, it's Elite Racing Vids.
We'll keep an eye
Guy
on
does a
him,
really
but
good
he's on the
job,
back.
and his
He's gonna
vantage
take a
point I
hit
think
at
is
the
1 and
points.
2,
That's big right there.
and
That
he
is a
shows
crushed
the same thing.
We
So
were
this is
on one
me
to
at the
go,
tail
but
end of the
Dean was
field
having an
behind the
issue with
99.
Dean Ward's car. So right now the
Still
So-
caution.
leaders coming
so we've had a
out
wreck.
for to receive
You
the one
on lap
point.
17.
Mhm.
You've gone in the pits.
Yep.
On the hook. They should
You've changed your right rear
Yep.
because it was flat.
Yep.
You come back out. There's still a tow truck, still hauling a car off.
Yes.
Still on lap 17.
Still on lap 17.
You come back out. You're now at the tail end of
Still
the
on
field, as you should be.
I'm dead last, but I'm still
lap
on the lead
17.
lap. Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Still on the lead
Technically,
lap.
not even dead last because I think at this point you guys had actually passed the 99 car a time or two
Oh, man, we're having
I
fun
don't
with
know. I
this.
think he
know
might
it's
have been
tough
on
for
the
these
lead lap.
Oscar
at
drivers.
17.
They're getting put off. They might
well,
suck.
I'm just asking.
gotta
I
watch
mean,
good chance he might be a lap down.
Yeah.
Yes,
Can't help
you
it.
could be right,
If
Brad.
you
I
come
didn't
through
think about that. But I'm at the
traditionally, I
tail
mean,
end of the
he does
field.
a really good job staying out of the way, but usually by
just gonna have
10,
a good
12 laps in,
time.
especially the race pace you guys are setting,
Yes.
we've usually
So
passed
So
it at
now
least once.
here we are.
Well, guess what, folks? Hardworking people back in
know
Charlotte
if
are
you can
having a
see
good
the
time
scoreboard
too,
here
as
or not.
we are about to go green flag racing.
17.
Again.
There's 17 on the
17.
scoreboard. Okay. This is when we're going back green. So I went in the pits under the same caution. Lap 17. They're already saying lap 17. They're taking the green. I'm behind. I'm at the tail end of the field. Lap 17. Okay. Now there's another wreck. We make it through, and all that really doesn't matter. So the reason that I know how it stacked up is as being the guy who's second in the points, I'm watching what the guy who's leading the points is doing. So right here, Brandon is several cars ahead of me because I'm at the tail end of the field. I'm like, man, we got to catch up here. Well, there's another wreck. Brandon gets in it. And then I actually restart in front of Brandon. Now the caution was out. It could have been either way. It was a judgment call. And the judgment calls is one thing because at Bowman Gray with no transponders, was he in the wreck? Was he not in the wreck? Where was he at when the caution came out? Was he in front of him, behind him? That's a judgment call, okay? And that's open to interpretation, but it's
Sure.
a judgment. It's a
That's
human
right.
judgment call. When you have a scoring issue, and then you have proof that shows, wait a minute, yeah, this is black and white. There's no opinions. There's no judgment. Black and white. Okay, now, during this race, if a mistake was made, it's one of two things that can happen here. Either a mistake was made or it was a blatant abuse of power. Now, I don't know which, but I do know that it was wrong. And when we brought it to their attention and said, hey, I watched this, I saw this, I know myself, but here's video proof. Here's video proof. So fast forward to the end, I think you can see it better on the racing vids, but people can go watch it themselves. But my point is I wanted to show after this race, when we're taking the checkered flag, Brandon Ward comes across in 7th, the 00's 8th, and I'm 9th. So at the end of the night, we tied Brandon on average finish. We're going to gain 2 points, no breaks, cut a right rear, missed 2 wrecks.
Not a bad night.
Man, And the reason I'm explaining all this is I owe it to everybody who watched Flow the other night across the country and in the Triad, and everybody who was in the grandstands the other night, all my friends, my family, my sponsors, my fans, everybody that saw me finish ninth and see that I gained 2 points on the leader and I'm second in the points. Well, when you pull it up, now I lost 16, I lost 14 points to Brandon, and I'm third in the points.
It's a 16-point swing.
It was a 16-point swing. So the reason I'm explaining this is not just the fact that they stole positions from me and they stole points from me. I want my fans and everybody to understand that this is why I'm now scored 15th. Okay. So this is the top, this shows the top 5. Is that the checkered?
Yeah.
Okay. Back it up just a hair if you would, Devin. Just a little bit. Pause it. Is that the white or the checkered?
That's the checkered.
That's the checkered. All right. There's the 104 car going into 1. There's the 00, and there's my orange front bumper. Okay. That's the finish of the race. So
Agreed.
what I requested them to do, don't take my word for it. And I feel like I can say this is a true statement. Call Brandon Ward and say, Brandon, where'd you finish in the second race? 7th. Where'd Burt finish? 9th. How'd the points shake out? We thought we had him. But man, he rebounded and he ended up getting 9th place, and now he gained 2 points on me. There's no doubt in my mind Brandon would say that, because if it's the other way around, that's what we'd be saying. Because I got news for you. We keep up with it, right? If Brandon's car comes in the pits, I got 10 different people watching to make sure.
Right.
And they tell me, hey, the 104 just lost a lap in the pits. And we go, all right, guys, we could gain some stuff here tonight. When I made it back out, there's no doubt in my mind those guys said, crap, he made it back out. So I know what happened. So here's my point, okay? Bowman Gray Management, the general manager, the competition director, and now the chief scorer involved. I went through this whole scenario about how I watched it. And if you go back, never in a million years would we think to recheck my finish, because we know where I finished, okay? And they said, well, your mom signed the name beside 15th. She did. But per what they told me was we have 15 minutes to dispute it. So which is it? If we got 15 minutes to dispute it and we didn't dispute it, then I don't care where she signed after the race. Well, we might could have done it. Whoa. You tell me what the rules are,
Right,
and let us go by them. Now, they're right. But let me ask you this scenario. Excuse me. Darren Redmond's driving Holloman's car, black and pink. Car that won the race is black and pink. Now, this is going to sound, people are going to say, well, that's silly. What happens if they got those two cars confused? Because we don't have transponders, and we got eyeballs from humans watching this and trying to determine who finished where.
Hey, think about this. Every car in Sportsman that's fast is black.
Black. It's black.
Yeah.
So, and I know you've been through this in other divisions too. So, what if, hypothetically, Junior and his family are celebrating and they're getting excited, and his dad says, oh, crap, got to go get the money. And he runs in there and he gets the envelope, thanks, and he goes and he leaves and he gets home and he goes, oh, wait a minute. I got the money for the 8 car. Y'all messed up. You think they would fix that? You would think, right? So here's my argument. Because of a technicality, because of where she signed her name, and the sheet doesn't say finish, it says official payout is what it says. And I was told the fact that she signed her name on that line, that was her accepting that that's where I finished. Okay?
I think what that really is accepting liability for the cash
Maybe.
transaction.
Well, and because it says payout, it doesn't say finish, it says payout.
Right.
But if you go back to what they said, which was you have 15 minutes to dispute it, and they put a timestamp on it right as the race is over with, then who signed what doesn't matter.
That's right.
Which leads me to believe that you're exactly right. The finish has already been determined because you didn't dispute it after 15 minutes. All this is saying that you got the money.
That's right.
Okay? So either way, because of a technicality,
Right.
they stole positions and points and money
Well,
from
and
me.
this affects not only Bowman Gray, but this affects
State and regional.
state and regional.
Absolutely.
And that's
absolutely. They count how many cars you pass, your finishes, where you started. Yes, there's it's all factored into a formula. So yes, this affects my state and regional points as well. And so I actually told them, I said, you know what? To kind of minimize the conflict, every dollar counts in racing, but I'm willing to accept my money. I don't care about the money, but my points.
Sure.
My points. This could be big. I've tied in the points before.
Yeah, I mean, if you lose a champion this year by 1 point, and this is
What if I lose it by 15 points?
this is the black eye.
Same
Well, I'm just
thing,
saying,
right?
even 1 point at this point, you
Right.
know what I mean?
So me and Tim Brown have tied for the championship, and they had to go back to wins, and we both had the same amount of wins. And they went to seconds, and he had more seconds than me, and I lost the championship. Now you're telling me you stole 16 points, a 16-point swing? You tell me you stole these points from me, okay? Because that's what happened. So I want people to know, number one, that maybe I'm not the golden child at Bowman Gray you think I am. How I'm in their pocket and all that. You know, you hear all that stuff, right?
Keyboard warriors.
Yeah, the keyboard warriors. And the people who are going to see it, the people that don't pull for us, that don't.
I think
like
what
us.
people are going to do is going to say, I don't like that. I don't like that guy, but he ain't wrong.
Well,
The
right.
problem with any argument is unfortunately, if that person doesn't have the ability to see a different perspective or different point of view, the argument really should never ensue, because no matter what facts or evidence anybody sees, either way, whether you were right or whether you were wrong, if the other person you're arguing with doesn't have the opportunity to see an objective point of view and see it another way,
100%.
there is no winning. It doesn't matter.
So what's the
100%.
old saying? It's I refuse to have a battle of wits with someone who's unarmed.
Absolutely.
That sums that
Yes.
up. But anyway, I'm not going to go through all of this. I'm not going to go through all of this, but this went on for today's Wednesday. I got a phone call yesterday morning at 9:00 when they finally said,
This is what we're
scoring
doing.
you 15. Now, here's why the lap 17 and all that's important. I said, I want to know how you came up with this decision. And they talked to the chief scorer. The chief scorer said him and his backup scorer had me pitting at lap 16 and coming back out on lap 17. Okay. So that's why I wanted to document and narrate this video where it shows the same caution. Now, we all know at Bowman Gray Stadium, how many times have we seen it? A street stock race has got a 20-minute time limit. They've already had 80 cautions. They're getting close to their time
Are
limit.
you saying there's cautions in
No,
streets?
I'm just- I know I'm not picking on street.
You're picking on my people, Bert. Come
I'll
on,
say
man.
modified,
All
okay?
right.
Modified race.
Yeah.
Because obviously
It happened. Yeah.
Modifieds are subject to it as well. But my point is the caution came out, obviously, it looks like to me, appears to me. Now, it appears by what they're saying is the caution came out on lap 16. So the leader's going into 3 as the caution comes out, if you kind of judge where he might be. We've all seen that happen. The time limit's getting close. This race is getting out of hand. We've already had too many cautions. And they click a lap.
I don't even know that it's always that. I think sometimes they feel like they're a lap behind. There's a lot of things going on. I spent a couple years sitting behind the scoring stand. I may or may not have had a microphone in my hand for a couple seasons there, and actually backed up Tim McGuire, one of the best announcers we ever had. And that scoring stand is right there. There's a lot of things going on. And
I agree.
honestly, I don't envy any of their positions, because I have seen knockdown, drag-out arguments between two scorers over a position.
Right.
And it should be, because they should be fighting for your position as well. But there are times that there are disputes along that front deal, and they're trying to keep up with who was where and who was in that wreck and who came out. There's a lot of stuff going on.
So let me ask you this. So if we're all chasing integrity, right? Like for the 30,000 foot view of Bowman Gray Stadium racing, the solution is transponders.
Well, there's no question about it. And here's the thing. What Bert's really addressing here, this is an unfortunate situation for him. And I appreciate you guys having me on today. And I didn't know we were going to get into any of this,
Brad,
but
no, just as that's
he
the
got
other disclaimer.
blindsided on
Brad
this one.
didn't know anything about this till we got here. So
I
sorry,
ran,
Brad.
I ran my first race at Bowman Gray.
We knew you could handle it.
Yeah.
We knew you could handle it.
I ran my first race at Bowman Gray in 1990. I've raced everything you can race over there, including I have one modified start. Scoring has always been not an issue, but there's been some questionable things that have happened. Would we love to point at the scoring stand and say blatant abuse of power? Because that's sometimes it feels that way. I am going to say, just based on my experience, being in that tower for 2 full seasons, I don't think it is. I think it is mistakes. Things slide through the cracks. There's a lot going on, and it is easy to miss the details.
Fair. Fair.
There's an argument over a particular track record we talked about. I sat in the tower that night. It's an impressive lap. It'll never be beat. Not in our lifetime.
Right.
Maybe Slate's grandkids, but not our
Yeah.
lifetime. I don't know that it'll be beat. At the time, I raced that division. I was in the go or go home program. There's no way. But sometimes mistakes happen. And unfortunately, when they make that decision, they've got to do what they feel like they've got to do. And you're right in what you're doing.
Right.
And the way that you have
I'm not
addressed it.
disputing.
But this is an overall Bowman Gray, we're going to call it a situation that, and I'll just say it, and I'm friends with all the management staff. I sponsor the racetrack. I sponsor 19 race cars there. 82%, we actually did math on that, of the people there use my product. Man, I'm Bowman Gray tried and true. My first race there was in, I guess would have been in August of 1973. I had just been born. I was in a bassinet there in the Goodyear tire truck. I've been there a long time. This is not an issue today. It has been an issue for a long time. And it's something that we probably need to look at. We've all heard promises. We know that the tools are there to make it happen. It's an expensive endeavor. But come on, man. Even if they made us all buy our own.
Let me ask you
transponder-
this. How big of an expensive endeavor do you think this cost me?
Oh, no. You're exactly right. Well, let me ask you a question. If they told you you had to spend $300 to buy your own A and B transponder, you couldn't make it out of this studio today before you would be online or Kim would be online and your transponder would be in hand. Am I right or wrong?
Probably so.
So put the burden on us and let us all buy
Well,
it.
here's my thing. So you make good points. Okay. I'm not saying, I was just pointing out that that could be an option.
Could be.
Okay. Because sometimes, like you said, we feel that way. My point is, when I called the competition director at 1 a.m., okay, per their time stamp, 15 minutes after the race, SOL. But at some point, doing the right thing's got to count for something. And when I bring this to their attention and I show them video and I say, look at this, please look at this, please investigate this. Think about how could I have possibly gone in on 16 and come out on 17 when it was the same caution? So I'm not saying that the chief scorer did anything deliberately. He did make a mistake. Okay, he did make a mistake. And like we said, we all make mistakes. But owning the mistake is where I have a problem. They've been making mistakes since August of
1973.
1973.
They've been making mistakes since 1948.
Since
but
my grandpa
yes,
raced there in the early 50s.
absolutely.
They've
And
been
you're not
making
asking
mistakes.
them to
That's
look
not
after.
my-
You're not
that's-
saying look after Bert. You're just saying do the right,
And
make
that's
the right
what
decision.
I said, I'm not asking you to change the outcome of the race. I'm asking you to change your scoring problem. Give me what I earned. Okay? I'm not telling you to do me a favor.
Right.
I'm not asking for
Right.
a favor. I'm asking you to do the right thing. And so that's kind of the whole thing on this is yes. This is one of the things, and I'm not scared to say it because I told you I was going to tell you the truth. And anybody that knows me knows I might say something you don't like, but you can count on it's the truth, right? One of the things that bothers me is in one of these conversations, whenever one of the mid conversations towards the middle of all this stuff, I said, guys, I'm pleading with them. Guys, please, you have to understand, this is not a hobby for me. This is my life. I race for a living. This is big. Take it. We fight and scratch and claw and spend money we don't have to come over there and race on the weekend, to claw for every dime and for every point. And at the end of the night, we survived. We're actually going to gain 2 points. And then because of a technicality, you're saying you can't fix the mistake that is obvious. And I said, can we agree? This was the last phone call yesterday morning. On this call with the general manager and the competition director, can we agree that I was on the lead lap? Yes, a mistake was made. Why didn't we fix it at 1 a.m. or say, hold on, we're not going to post anything. We're going to look into this. I would expect them to do that for any driver over there. I'm not asking for a favor, okay? But one of the things in the mid conversations that really bothered me is they were kind of standoffish. And I'm saying, guys, please look into this. Please look into this. Please look into this. And one of the first things that was said to me was, well, you got to accept some responsibility here too. Instead of, we think a mistake was made, we can't fix it, but we're really sorry this happened to you. Instead, you got to accept responsibility too. That's something I tell my kids. You know what I'm saying? So I've always tried to do the right thing and say the right thing. You know what? I'm going to say it. Bowman Gray Management called me after I'd won 3 races in a row. And they said, we've got a real issue, not just in modifieds, but we got an issue with certain drivers when they win. Victory lane is flooded with 100 people. And it really slows our program down. Didn't know if you had any ideas on how to fix this. I said, man, first of all, it's a heck of a problem to have, isn't it?
Yes, it
You know
is.
what I mean? I'm not going to tell people they can't come down there. There's kids that come down there that I don't know who their parents are. I don't know who they are, but they come up every single week, right? I'm not going to tell that kid they can't come down there. Now, if it's a problem for you and for your show, because Bowman Gray is very diligent. That's one thing about Bowman Gray. They're on time. And if it does slow their show down.
Well, I think the problem is we're dealing with a curfew, and it's something we don't have in a lot of
right.
places.
So either way, I said, look, here's the deal. I'm not going to tell fans, hey, you can't come down here. But I'll tell you what I will do. If you put something in place, me and my team and my family will do everything we can to help you, to comply, to say, hey, fans, sorry, this is our rule. I hope you understand. But come down in the pits and we'll make sure we take care of you, right? But I'm not going to tell the fans they can't do that. I said, if there's a cop, where they talked about it, put a sign down there, put a cop down there. But the cop has trouble finding out who is actually legit and who's not.
Right.
I said, look, I can vouch for my wife. She'll be glad to help you with this. I've always done everything I could to help Bowman Gray be successful because that's where I live. That's where I race. That's where my family's always raced.
It's where you make your living.
That's where I make my living. So I've always tried to do everything I can. So I just expected a little courtesy. Bowman Gray says, well, she signed her name. She sure did. She sure did. But at the end of the day, there's evidence. I called it that night and said, look, can we please look into this? And this is where we are. And I have to accept it. But at the end
yeah,
of the day,
because they got you in a corner.
they got me in a corner.
I mean,
And
you can't
the
appeal it.
goal of this, my flesh, my human side, my flesh would love to go on here and say,
Lots of
stick it, Bowman
lots of
Gray.
other things.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
just stick it. You
Sure.
know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But this is where I go. And they know I'm going to be back Saturday night. We bring 5 modifieds a weekend
Right.
to this racetrack. And I'm not saying that because I want them to do me a favor. All I'm saying is hey, I know I missed that window right after the race is over with, but I brought it to your attention at 1 o'clock in the morning. And before things are posted, look into this and see that I'm telling you the truth. I'm not trying to pull wool on anybody's eyes. I'm telling you the truth. And the fact that they just kind of dismissed it because maybe sometimes they don't, it's just 14 points.
Sure. And this year
To
for
me,
14 points
it
is
might
a
be
lot.
1,000
Could-
points.
that's
It
a
could be,
lot.
You know what I mean?
Could be a lot.
That's my point to all this. And the fact that there's people that I'm close with that still don't know this. They're hearing this for the first time right now.
Mhm.
My crew, half my crew, I did a group text yesterday. Half my crew had no idea because they left before all this went down. What? Man, they screwed us out of our 9th place finish, man. We rebounded. And after all that, so the reason for this is to explain what went down, what happened. Could transponders fix it? They could help. Could getting new people in there fix it? It could help. But at the end of the day, when you're relying on humans, mistakes are going to be made, and I'm fair. That's fair.
Things happen very fast.
And I'm good with that. You know, there's been times my wife when did you know they don't have scores anymore? First race of the year and last race of the year is the only time they score races. Okay, they did away with 100
100 lap score nights.
Well, wait a minute. If we got a real problem and things happen so fast, and we're trying to do everything we can to fix it, but you're telling me you had scores in place on 100 lap nights?
I will
and
say-
now we took them out?
I will say,
Okay, what's the reasoning behind that?
if you've ever scored a race, you're probably thankful you don't have to score the 100
My
lap
wife,
races
so that's
also.
what I was
Yes.
going to say. There's been times my wife got caught up in the action and missed a lap
Absolutely.
and had to go back and was like, oh crap, wait a minute. So I get it. It's Bowman Gray. It's a flat quarter mile. We're running 100 miles an hour. I get it. My argument is, when I brought it to your attention, it was the right thing to do to fix it. If they accuse you of murder and they detain you, but then they find Phillips' DNA and say, oh, whew, mistake was made here. Brad, sorry about that. Go home. Not, well, we already had you in handcuffs.
Easy.
Sorry, man.
Yeah.
That's what I feel like. Oh, you had me in handcuffs, so now I've got to spend my life in prison. That's what I feel like. That they didn't give me the opportunity, or they didn't take the opportunity to rectify the situation. So we're going to wrap it up because I know we got lots of good stuff to talk about with you besides this. Just so my fans know, and people around the country, and sponsors, Tommy with Pinnacle there that night. Pinnacle's hearing this for the first time right now. and I'm sure I'm going to get a call. What happened?
Right.
What do you mean, man? You did great. I've already had a few texts.
The team put on a show for Pinnacle. I mean, that night.
To wrap it up, I just wanted people to know exactly what went down, exactly how it went down, exactly how they scored me 15th when I finished 9th. There's nothing I can do about it. Richard Petty used to say, can't put the milk back in the glass, but information had to be shared today to let people know what happened. So what I'm going to do is, you got notes for Brad. I'm going to close my little Paco notebook.
Now I will.
And I'm going to close my phone, and we're not going to talk. Well, see, I can't close my phone. Remember we did the little thing.
One of
Slate fix that
the
for you.
things Devin and I were talking about was, like, before you got started on this, is how nice it would be, because you did a really good job of keeping your temperament. I would have loved to have had a blood pressure monitor on you as you were going through that.
Just
Yeah,
now?
Yeah, because I know how passionate you are about
I'll
it.
be honest with you. Like I told you, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. My wife said, "Oh, they got to fix this. This is at 1:05 in the morning."
But at 105, you knew they weren't.
After I called management and I said, "Look," she said, "Oh yeah, they got to fix it." I said, "Baby, they're not. They're not." Oh, they have to. So then you get a little bit of hope with, "Oh, we're going to check with the scores."
Yeah.
Sure.
And you're like, "No, they're not." Yeah, oh, wait. We're going to double check. We're going to watch a video. Whew, maybe. No, they're not. Because let me tell you something. I've grown up at Bowman Gray Stadium. And I know the ins and the outs, and I know how it goes. I know how it goes. That's why NASCAR, when you call NASCAR for their opinion, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
There's certain things that have happened over the years. I believe it might have been the situation with some wheels, and we went through that story too. And I'm not going to get into that. That'll be in my book one day.
Yeah.
They penalized me, and I called NASCAR, the appeals guy for NASCAR. I said, "Hey, I want to appeal this."
Right.
Appeal what?
Didn't know anything about it.
What? I said, "I want to appeal this penalty that I have." He said, "I don't know what you're talking about." I said, "What do you mean you don't know what I'm talking about?" He said, "Well, if that's a track issue, NASCAR has no documentation on it whatsoever." Really? So who do I appeal to? Well, if it's a track issue, that's up to them if they want to accept the appeal or not.
Yeah, I just disagree with that because there's so many points
but
involved.
listen, that makes it sound like I hate Bowman Gray and that I don't want anything to do with it, right? That I'm bashing Bowman Gray. But everybody listening and everybody that's not listening knows that's where I'm going to be Saturday night.
Sure.
Well, not this Saturday night.
Yeah.
When we go back, that's where I'm going to be because that's what we do. And my Uncle Frank used to tell us, stop complaining because it's self-inflicted because you keep going back.
Mm-hmm.
So I get it. Okay. Same difference. Somebody, just so help the people understand. If you don't understand racing, relate this to a work environment. How many times maybe you work an extra hour that they didn't give you credit for? So everybody's dealt with situations like this. But guess what? You still go in and punch in the next day.
Absolutely.
But I just want people to know, I don't read a lot of stuff on Facebook. I get text, and especially
We let you know what you need to know.
let you know what I need to know, but maybe I don't get all the special treatment that they think I do. But either way, like I said, I've closed my taco notebook, and now we're still
Fair
talking
enough.
about it.
You know, that's a really good segue real quick. And I think a lot of folks, I know you got tons of fans that watch this, and, everybody sits in the stands, man, Burt Myers can't drive, Tim Brown can't drive, whatever. Right. So here's the thing about it. Here's why guys really get upset. And we had a really passionate situation this week, which we'll talk about also. Here's the thing about it. All of us are spending time on our race cars that we honestly don't have. All of us are spending money on our race cars we honestly don't have. We pour all of our resources into it, and ultimately that race car is like a child to us.
Absolutely.
So when something happens in the heat of battle, number one, if you're driving a race car and your adrenaline's not flowing, it's time to get out of the seat.
Right.
I was told that a long time ago. All of us are at Mach 10. Our senses are aware of the whole deal. Man, you're doing great. Life is going good, the whole deal, and something goes wrong. It immediately takes you from that adrenaline rush of happy and joy. The next emotion is anger.
Yes.
Even if it was your own fault, then you're mad at yourself. But as
You're
humans,
still mad.
we want
Right.
to find somebody to blame because we don't always want to admit that it was us. But the passion that goes on in that, I used to tell people all the time, Bert, if you blew your motor up Saturday night, there is no doubt in my mind, now you'd be fortunate because we have a week off, you would be back in 2 weeks. Now, I have no idea what it costs for an engine now, but I know my last 18-degree motor, the great Jay Foley built my last 18-degree motor, brand new money was like $34,000. I haven't run a modified since 2004, so I can't imagine what they cost now. I know they're expensive, but 34 grand, and let's just say you destroyed it all, tore the block up and everything. You'd find a way. You'd find a way. But I guarantee you, if you went home today and your refrigerator went out, you would be pissed.
Yeah.
To the point like you'd be bashing GE for 2 weeks.
Right.
But that motor blows up. We're always going to find a way. Our passion is there. Our heart is there. Our resources are there. And it's one of the things that happened to me when I got hurt in 2014, can't race anymore. You know what? It was one of those things. It finally helped me see, honestly, and this is bad to say, how parasitic what it is that we do to our lives.
It's bad.
If you're a drug addict, there's a 12-step program. If you're an alcoholic, if you're a racer, we just keep going and getting more of this.
Right.
We can't get away
You know how
from
many
it.
times my wife has said, break a rear end, right? I say, I got to call Buzzy. For what? All right, we broke a rear end. We got to get a rear end. Well, you got $400 in your account. How much is a rear end? Rear end's $2,500. Well, what are you going to do? I said, I don't know, but
I'm
I'm
figure it
calling
out.
Buzzy.
I'm going to
Guess
figure it
what?
out.
I'm calling Buzzy.
Yes,
We'll
absolutely.
figure it out. So, yeah,
We're not going to do that. So I think a lot of folks don't really understand the resources. I mean, the birthday parties we've missed, the anniversaries that we've missed, the vacations, the things that we've missed, the not coming in. 5 more minutes. 5 more minutes in the race shop is like 5 more minutes of your wife getting ready for dinner. It's an hour or 3.
Yeah.
I don't know how many cold meals that I ate. And not only the cold meal, but when I got in bed that night, the cold shoulder. And the fact that my wife was rolled over facing the wrong direction and didn't even speak to me, she grumbled or grunted when I asked her a question. So I gave up a part of my childhood, youth, early marriage for the same thing that you're still doing today. And so many of these other racers are. It goes beyond love. It goes beyond addiction. It is something that is truly in your blood. I have so.
That's where they're saying it's in your blood. That's what that means. And I'm glad you said it this way because that's exactly what it means. When they say racing's in your blood,
yes,
it means it consumes you.
I have quit
literally
racing more than any guy you know that's 52 years old. And I just keep being dumb and showing back up. I got that good guy call saying going on now. I brought my buddy up from Texas this last week. We had a pretty good time, but nonetheless, we're still doing it now. But you know what? You know why I don't have a modified? I'm not that angry at my money. And I'm not saying that the sportsman deal is that much better, but I don't have to buy 4 tires every week.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And today, if I wanted to build a brand new modified, new car, new motor, new everything, what would it cost me? No deals. And obviously, I know a lot of people.
The built motor deal, because you can't get new parts and stuff
absolutely.
anymore. We'll say the spec motor.
Okay.
So if you wanted to build a car to run the Smart Tour with
no. I want to come.
You
to
want to buy
Bowling
one?
Green.
I mean, you want to buy one turnkey to run the Smart Tour with a spec motor, seat, turnkey,
Everything.
ready to go. 120.
$120,000.
Yeah, probably so.
I think a lot of folks don't realize what it actually.
It's so funny when you start talking to people. Like the biggest, the atmosphere that's the most comical is at church. And I saw you on the news last night. And then if they ever get deep enough to start, how much does a set of tires cost? $800. Oh man, for you, how long can you run them?
Well, they're good for 20 laps, but
how much does it pay to win? $850.
Yeah.
People, and they go, what?
Yes.
Like when me and my wife, I've told this story. I don't know if I told it on here, but me and Kim got together. She's got a degree in finance. Okay. She's one of the managers, or she's the manager at one of the Pinnacle branches. We were together not even 6 months. I don't understand something.
Yeah, I guarantee
I said, what? You spend more than you bring in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like that doesn't make sense. I said, it's racing, honey. But how do you make it work? I said, I'm going to show you. And I've been trying for 17 plus years to show her. And she's bought in. That's where she says she's bought in. I don't know if she's bought in or not, but I'm fortunate enough. I've said this before. I call it a blessing that I can race for a living. I'm probably one of the only guys. The Dylan Wards. Dylan races for a living, I guess. But
he's also building cars, chassis, doing a lot of other stuff. Right.
Cars. So I'm probably one of the very, very few that can race for a living, and I'm blessed to do it. And because of Citrusafe and Pinnacle, and
I was going to say nobody's doing it without sponsorship.
Exactly.
At this level,
unless by myself, right?
Somebody has got to have. If you're looking at a solid white race car with the number 1 on it, somebody in that Myers lineage has got really, really, really deep pockets. Because without sponsorship, this doesn't happen for
your grandpa's grandpa had money. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, you were talking about the passion and everything, and that kind of leads me into another event from Saturday night at the stadium. And unless you've been living under a rock, then you haven't seen the stuff that happened in the sportsman race. And,
Street stock.
Street
Oh,
stock.
street stock. I'm sorry, street.
Said, don't put that on us.
Sportsman was tame.
Sorry,
Sportsman was tame. Yeah,
Said,
hey,
don't
you-
put that on us.
hey, Zach Clifton showed up. He educated us on how to qualify.
Yes,
He
sir.
educated us on how to lead 100 laps. He went completely uncontested. Kudos to Zach Clifton. If y'all think y'all got a better car, bring it to the next 100 lapper. Because
Yep.
he,
No, he
him and
was
his
on.
daddy schooled us
He
Saturday
was
night.
on.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
But the Zach Staley thing, you know, everybody's got their opinion, and I will give him credit for his passion.
Absolutely.
And I don't know any of the Staleys. I've never spoke to them. I'm sure they're great folks, man.
And think about this. His kid is involved
Right.
in this incident. So here's the thing about it.
I've been there.
Yeah.
I can probably do and say a lot of things to Burt Myers that he's going to let roll off his back.
Right.
But I can assure you, if that went down with Slate Myers, we're going to have a conversation.
One of the few confrontations I've ever had was at Franklin County,
Mm.
and it's because it involved Slate.
I do remember that. Yes.
It involves
absolutely.
Slate, and that's different.
You know, here's the thing.
Different.
We all love ourselves. We're all a bit narcissistic, whether you want to admit it or not. We all are. But when it comes to our kids,
Yeah.
and I don't have grandkids yet, but I've heard when it comes to your grandkids,
I've heard that.
I mean, prison is not even.
Tommy's over here going, yeah.
Prison doesn't even scare grandparents. They're like, yeah, I'm down.
Yeah.
What do I get, the orange or the stripes? Which one is
Right.
it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I've never
Yeah.
heard it like that.
So,
Doesn't scare me.
I've seen that firsthand. When my daughter got in a wreck, her
Yeah.
grandfather showed up, and it took a couple deputies to keep him off of the guy at fault. So I get
quick
that.
story I'll throw in there. So I drove my first modified for Brent Elliott. God rest his soul. Master at qualifying, was my hero growing up. And his dad was Kermit, and probably one of the smartest men to ever turn a wrench on a modified. Back when things were built. Back when your
You didn't
daddy
buy
was-
it, you built it.
You
right?
didn't. Yeah, you didn't. There
Right.
was nothing for sale. And a particular situation went down one night when we were all in Denton working on the car, and let's just say that a handgun may have been displayed, and there was a bit of a confrontation out front over a situation. And I never did get all the details on it. I was told to stay in the shop, so I stayed in the shop. And here's what I understood from that thing. Kermit came back in there and he sat back down. He said, "You don't challenge an old man." He said, "Number one, I've lived a good life and I'm ready to die." He said, "If you whoop me, you whooped an old man. If I whoop you, you got whooped by an old man."
right.
And he says, "I'm going to tell you right now, I don't fight fair."
Yep.
You know, I took that to heart, and I have made absolutely positive. I don't challenge an old man because you know what? He's already at the end of the rope anyway.
Yeah.
And vice versa. So
Yeah. And nothing came of it, but I saw one night something happened with Jason and another driver, and there was pushing and shoving and whatnot.
Mhm.
And it's probably 10 years ago. So my dad's 75 now, so 65.
sure.
I turned around, he had a sledgehammer in his
Oh
hand.
yeah, he was coming.
Right? And
Absolutely.
he didn't hit nobody, but if he had to, he probably would.
He would
Yeah.
have done. He would
And
have
wouldn't have lost an ounce of sleep over it either.
No.
I think, on my opinion on that whole deal with the street stocks is it's very easy to let your emotions run wild
100%.
at Bowman Gray because the atmosphere is perfect for it.
It really is.
Okay. I've done things that are on YouTube that I'm not proud of, but I did them.
I think I've seen one or two of those videos. Yes.
That's what people say. Where can I find it? Look it up on YouTube. I'm like, well,
Prefer,
don't stop at the first couple.
prefer you didn't.
I'll send you a video. How about
Yeah,
that?
let me send you something. So, my opinion on that is, did things get out of hand? Absolutely. I saw a post that he made that said, "Sorry, I lost my cool." But I will say this: from what people have told me over the last several days, I don't know where he finds the time to work so hard on social media. Dude's out of sight.
Yeah.
Dude, he works. I don't know if it's him or somebody else, but from what every 30 minutes, did you see what posted? Did you see what posted?
We were talking about
So,
engagements.
Hey, dude, he's staying relevant.
We were talking about
And-
engagement right before we went on. I mean, like 3 million views
Yeah.
on this thing already. And that's just what we know.
Somebody's getting paid from it.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Somebody's
and
getting
honestly,
paid.
at the end of the day, good, bad, or indifferent, I hope he's monetizing the
Well,
heck
I'll
out
tell
of
you
it.
what, though, the only thing that worries me, can you hear me crunching ice? I keep backing up when I do it. I'm sorry. Got a little scratch in my throat today, probably from yelling over the last 3 days. The only thing that worries me is the same things we saw with the Madhouse show.
Sure.
And I can't wait to talk to you about that, is it entices other people to maybe do some of that same stuff to try to get that same reaction.
Sure.
So Bowman Gray, I think you'll see it because I think there was a time last year where he got suspended and
He did.
he came back.
Mhm.
Now he's suspended again. I think Bowman Gray realizes that got to draw a little bit of a line here of how
You're right.
much we're going to allow to happen.
You know, one of the things that I was encouraged by when I heard that there had been a change of ownership and management.
Mm-hmm.
The only statement that I made, and I made it publicly, and I think it's maybe on one of my videos, I'm not afraid to get on Facebook and do my thing. I said, I just hope that there are consequences for bad behavior. That's all I said.
Yeah.
You can interpret that any way you see fit. Zach Staley and I have been friends for 30 plus years. A lot of guys don't know it. He was the youngest guy ever in Boy Scouts of America to earn an Eagle.
Dang.
He is not a dummy. Zach Staley is near genius.
It's obvious that with everything he's got going on, I'll tell you one thing I am jealous about, the old sign-in trailer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
He hit a
Best
home,
souvenir trailer
like,
ever.
where did he
he hit a home run
Yeah,
on that
best
one.
Where did he
trailer.
get that, man? I remember signing in at that trailer, man. I was like,
You've heard this before, too. You can't outwork hustle,
Mhm.
and nobody hustles harder
Yeah.
than
I
Zach
think
Staley.
it's obvious.
Uh,
I don't know him. I know him from the racetrack.
Sure.
But I don't know him.
And again, like you said, passionate. His kid was involved. He's admitted he made a bad decision in that moment. I get it. I see what happened. I see what was going down. Honestly, earlier in the same race, my driver, who I flew in from Texas, who's never run a pavement race in his entire life, Patrick Daniel, shout out to you. This guy's one of the baddest dirt late model racers. If you guys
I
have
met
ever-
him. He was cool. I met
he
him
came
that
over
day,
and met you
yeah.
in May when we got rained out.
Yeah.
He's actually set the pole for the dome race, the Dirt in December, Cody
Yeah,
Summers
yeah.
deal. He's no joke. This guy can wheel. We broke the sportsman car. He drove Brian Sykes Sr.'s car in the street stock race. He rolls from 14th to 5th. So he's got it figured out pretty good. And my man Staley, again, just clips through the infield, basically drives through the center of the race car and spins my man out with 4 or 5 laps to go right before this other incident goes down. Was I mad at Zach? In the moment. But you know what? I mean, it's Bowman Gray.
Yeah.
We almost come to expect it to some extent,
Yeah.
especially with the fendered cars. Not that y'all don't beat and bang, but I mean, you've seen us, man. You know who I want to be? I want to be the 5-star distributor logo.
Isn't that the truth?
I mean,
Because most of those cars show back over there the next week,
Yeah.
immaculate.
absolutely.
Listen, I beat panels out. Those
Yeah.
sportsman guys put new bodies on.
Well, see, that's what I miss
like,
about
golly.
that's what I miss about dirt racing. We had a plastic mallet and a 2x4, and as long as one side of the car looked good for photos, I mean, you were set to
Right,
go.
right.
We're not doing that with the pavement cars.
Right.
So yeah, so
I've always said if I ever have another fender car, the whole front nose and front fenders are going to Zeus on. And before the race, I'm talking about if you had it at Bowman Gray.
yeah,
Just take them off.
Absolutely.
Just go ahead and take them off.
Yep.
Just take them off.
yeah. And so which 5-star was good to us. We all have plastic now.
Yeah.
Everything but the hood. With plastic fenders, plastic doors. They do droop a little bit when they get hot. But
Yeah.
you're rough. We literally.
I will say that the hood on the 4 car,
pretty
it
sturdy.
peeled up and went
Yes,
right back to shape.
absolutely.
So whatever that's made out of.
Well, it was pretty good. Yeah. So
You were talking about with the Madhouse stuff, and a lot of people will probably recognize your voice right off the bat.
600, 1200 WSJS. Call you on live with Bad Brad.
Yep, there it is. There it is. So it's funny. I've actually got my son here. He wanted to come in because he has memorized every episode.
He told me when we came in, he goes, "Man, I've watched that thing like 3 or 4 times."
Yeah,
So
we
yes.
we going back and forth to the beach, to daycare, to football practice. iPad is out. It's Bad Brad. Da, 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 da. And then everywhere we go, at any given time, he can repeat it back to you.
Awesome.
Why'd you do that, Brad? If I hear that one more time
Yeah.
in my house,
That was Brad Robbins,
That
not
was
Brad
Brad,
not
Smith.
you.
So
No, I'm
yes.
just
But it was during the show. Yes.
right,
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
So he was excited about having you here. I know a lot of people that keep up with us will know, who you are.
Sure.
I'm curious how did that role even come up?
So Doc Love, great guy. A lot of guys around here know Doc. Doc actually had a radio show, internet radio show. None of this existed back then.
Mm-hmm.
This is 2009, 10, whenever it was. And it was the year that they were filming the show. And he had a radio show called Kickin' Asphalt. And at the time, I had the 2-way contract for Bowman Gray. Did Burke's radios, did Tim. If you raced at Bowman Gray, maybe one guy didn't use my stuff, but we had a service trailer there every week. We also did safety and a few other things, but we were there every week. And Doc was like, "Man, you're kind of involved in that deal." At the time, I was still racing. We were running sportsman cars. We were also running some dirt. But, I mean, I've known these guys. I mean, Bert and I are just a couple years apart, raced 4-cylinders against each other. I've known Tim. Tim's sister worked for us. I mean, it's a big intertwined deal. Everybody
Right.
knows everybody. So they would come to East Coast Wings and Grill, Brent Weaver's location out of 150, and they would watch us do this internet radio program. Bert had been on.
I'd been on
Tim,
him.
we'd had several guys that'd be on. We just talked about the week's racing, this, that, and the other. And Doc would talk about late model stock racing and stuff, and I just talk about Bowman Gray stuff. Well, we'd see the numbers spike when the Bowman Gray stuff because everybody wanted to hear, the nitty gritty. So Grant Kaler, Tim Tracy, we both got to know them well through the show. One week they happened to be there. I said, man, you need to come out when we do the show. So they came out and watched it. And they were pretty intrigued by it, And then the next week, something had happened. You and Tim were into it about something. I don't even remember what it was, but you had came over and you had a radio problem. You brought it over, and I happened to be in the trailer. Either me or little Mike, but I had stopped in. And I fixed your microphone or whatever. And you were venting about that. You were like, well, let me ask you your opinion. You were being burnt. Well, what would you have done in that situation? I'm like, man, I don't know, dude. That's pretty tough. It wasn't 20 minutes later. Tim comes over. He's got a problem with the radio. He's got a battery issue, whatever. So we fix that. Well, Tim's venting about the same thing. Tim Tracy is in the trailer. He's sitting in the trailer because he's waiting on me to program a scanner or something for him.
Now, who's Tim Tracy?
So Tim and Grant were the producers of this thing.
Gotcha. Okay.
They're the guy.
Okay.
Grant was our local guy. He's from
Right.
The Triage was the name of
He went to Wake
production
Forest,
company,
didn't he?
I believe it was.
Triage.
What's that?
Yeah.
He went to Wake Forest,
He
didn't
did. He graduated from
okay.
Wake.
Okay. Yeah.
And it was this thing was his brainchild. So Tim's in there waiting to get a scanner program, and Tim leaves. He goes, dude, you know everybody. I said, well, man, I ran the Smart Tour against these guys. I've raced with both these guys. I probably know most of them dogs' names. Truth be told, this is what we do. And he's like, I got an idea. He didn't say anything else about it. The next week he comes to the show. The show's over, and he says, man, we really want you to be the voice of Madhouse. I said, absolutely not. He said, what? I said, you're going to make us look like a bunch of rednecks. He said, y'all are. I said, well, you're kind of right, but nah, man, because I can only imagine the crap that y'all are going to write. He says, well, what if we give you some script liberties? And I had to research that. I didn't know anything about that. I never been on TV. I said, well, what does that mean? He goes, well, if we put something in our script that you don't want to say or you strongly disagree with, he says, we'll give you 80-20 rule. 80% of it you can veto. 20% of it you got to do. And one of those things was I made Chris mad in the studio. Chris threw a trash can at me. So they said, kid, you make Chris Fleming mad? And I said, oh, yeah, absolutely. And they said, well, don't tell us how you're going to do it, but we want you to do it. I got Chris bad upset in the studio. And I said, well, y'all he's bigger than me. I don't want to fight Chris. And they're like, no. We got it taken care of. So sure enough, I had to make Chris mad in the studio. But what I learned in that reality TV thing was I'd say 75% of what we did was real.
Absolutely.
Some of the things they asked us to do, we kind of had to do for Hollywood.
Well, I told people we might do a retake, but it wasn't scripted.
Well, that was one of the things
it
I
was
wanted
just,
to
hey,
ask
can
you.
you come back in the garage again? Can
Right.
you walk back through the
Absolutely.
door again? Can you?
Like, I was wondering if you had creative input or if it was all scripted.
No,
The whole 80-20 thing makes
So
sense.
because they didn't know technical terms and they didn't know a lot of technical things, they're like, what happened right there? And I'm like, left rear nerf bar got pushed into the tire smoke, bam, cut the tire. Oh, good. We got that now, Some of that radio chatter and tire squalling crap they had, I've driven modifieds. I've never had a tire squalling modified.
I've never
I
heard
don't know if that actually happens.
me either.
You know what I mean?
Me either.
I've chattered them in a sportsman car because I didn't have enough chemical in them.
You might feel it, but you can't hear it.
You can't hear it. So some of that stuff was kind of, off a little bit, but that all came from that little show that Doc and I did. And they actually had somebody else in mind for that role or whatever. And I don't know that deal fell through or whatever it was. And it kind of all came together.
Did they film it weekly, or did they do it kind of like after the season when it had already started to progress, and you would just sit down and just kind of knock out segments in one sitting?
Yeah, so we would just knock out segments in one setting. They would,
Okay.
the week, I guess Chris went to the hospital or whatever, they kind of played back B-roll. And I mean, these guys had, you guys saw 13 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
There are hundreds of hours of footage.
I was told that there was roughly 5% made TV.
I'd say that's probably right. Cameras were always rolling.
Yeah.
Radios were always going. Audio recording was always happening. What would really be cool is if they came back and they did Madhouse unscripted and they really let you see what happened.
Mm.
That would be, and today, back then we couldn't have because it was network TV.
Yeah.
You can't say certain words on network TV,
Right.
which you can now.
Yeah, now.
Also, there's certain things that you couldn't show back then on network TV that we can now. I think if Madhouse hadn't happened in 2010 and it happened in 2025, I don't know that it would have been as good just because of the time and the raw emotion that was there. And we've polished ourselves up a lot because we've got great partners like Citrusafe and these others. We were probably a little more passionate about what was going on the racetrack and not paying attention like we should have.
Mm.
I think it'd be a much better series today from a realism standpoint anyway. Just my opinion.
Well, and you throw in all the streaming services like Netflix and Prime,
Yeah,
to your point where it's uncensored.
yes.
I know just selfishly, I carried an internal affairs investigation out of that TV show filming. So I think everybody got touched somehow. So after the show airs, and you can talk about the success that you had, from Thompson going forward, first race back, but like for you, and especially with your brand and all the things that you were doing, what kind of after effects did you see after the show aired, whether it be benefit or drawback?
Sure. So, and I'm sure Bert will acknowledge this too. The first Saturday night back after the series aired was truly madness. Pits, parking,
the line
stands.
to get in.
Let me just say
At
this.
8 o'clock.
Y'all thought y'all had a crowd for the Clash.
Mm.
Y'all ain't have nothing.
No.
Dude, it wasn't even standing room only. It was ridiculous. And I don't know how the fire marshal didn't get involved in that, but you couldn't stir them with a stick.
They gave
in the
up.
pits.
They gave up.
There was a tour bus that had come down. I remember they were Canadian. I don't remember from, but it was a group of divorced women, and this was a trip that they took, and they had rented a bus. I got my picture made with every divorced Canadian woman that was at that racetrack, and every one of them bought an RH2
The
shirt.
fact that it's divorced women coming to Bowman Gray.
Yeah, it was.
That,
I mean,
you know what?
maybe there's opportunities there. I
That's
don't
the
know.
cherry on top right there.
But man, we sold T-shirts, we gave away stickers. I mean, just the whole thing. And everybody says, Madhouse really put Bowman Gray on the map. I disagree. Bowman Gray, prior to Madhouse, was still the longest running, best attended, number one short track, period. Argue what you want. There's some incredible dirt facilities. There's some incredible other pavement facilities. There's a lot of place with history. Nothing compares to what we've got there. 1948, we've been doing the same thing over and over and over and over again.
So one thing that people would ask me a couple years later after the show, when's Madhouse coming back?
Yeah,
you know what my response
I still
was?
get that today.
You know what my response is? It ain't gone nowhere. It just ain't on TV no more.
You're exactly right.
It ain't, and still we get people come today.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There was two fans this weekend from New York, New Jersey area. First time ever. So we still get that.
Absolutely.
And we've been waiting to come, and we finally made it. If you can spell the word racing in this country, you know about Bowman Gray Stadium.
You've heard of it anyway.
And when you were talking about racing being in your blood, so the people that share that same passion already knew about Bowman Gray.
Absolutely.
I think Madhouse just expanded those horizons, and you start getting a lot of people, whether it's families or whatever, that now this is a bucket list thing.
Yeah.
And I think after that K&N came and started racing there.
I don't remember the time lapse.
Yeah, I don't really recall.
I don't remember the time lapse. I know that
I'm not saying one's because of the other. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Everybody now sees it totally different. Like, oh, well, that's not just a racetrack in Winston-Salem.
Well, and we've had the conversation too. It's easy to pull up videos, and what's the old saying? You do 100 good things and one bad thing, and that's
Nobody remembers the good stuff.
Right?
Absolutely.
So you can pull up all the stuff from Bowman Gray, and the thing that always bothers me is when I hear other people's podcasts or hear people make comments or see stuff bashing rednecks and saying it's a demolition derby, and I say, and then you look at their page and they're from Kansas. Never even been there, right?
I have no clue.
But I understand where they can get that opinion.
Sure.
But I always say my disclaimer is come see it. Just come see it one time before you open your mouth, good or bad. Come watch it one time. Sit in the stands, get there before qualifying, watch the whole process. You can say what you want about how chaotic Bowman Gray appears. It's a very well-oiled machine.
It really is. And that's part of the reason it has been successful as long as it has.
I tell people this. I forget who I was telling this to. I probably said it on here. It's 30 minutes from anywhere. It's $12 to get in. You can bring a bag of cheeseburgers and a little small cooler, full field in every division. It starts at 8, and you're out of there by 10:30.
Absolutely.
There's chain races. There's demos. There's
cleanest bathrooms anywhere.
Cleanest bathrooms
digital
anywhere.
scoreboard.
Yes,
I mean, we've got,
scoreboard.
and the drivers are accessible.
Fully accessible.
Early in the night and after the race. And
you sit on the
just
front
don't
row,
get that.
you can feel the wind from the
Absolutely.
cars coming by. And I tell people, those are all great things, but one of the things that I add to that makes Bowman Gray what it is every driver gets paid cash at the end of the night.
Absolutely.
And I'm not saying, I don't mean this in a negative way, but when we used to run the NASCAR Whelen Southern Modified Tour, and it was a NASCAR sanctioned event, it would take 3 weeks to get a check.
In the mailbox.
In the mail.
Yes.
Because, and I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just saying that's their process. Bowman Gray understands that there's a lot of guys.
They have to have that to be back
They got
next
to have
week.
that to get home
gotta
and to
come
get
back
back
next
the next week.
You know.
And I think that's one of the things that I heard the the barbershop chatter was, when NASCAR takes over, is that going to go away?
Sure.
And I was told that NASCAR understood that these guys don't want to carry credit with the tire man. They don't want to carry credit
Right.
with the gas,
Right.
because what happens is, we all know what happens with credit. The country knows what you go in debt. You
Right.
go in debt. And so what happens, you carry credit this week, you can carry credit this week, and next thing you know, you got a $5,000 bill that you can't pay.
Well, and
If I pay it that night with the cash I just got, I say, okay, we
I'm
can
square.
come back next week.
Right.
So that's one of the things too about Bowman Gray. And listen, all that stuff we were talking about earlier about how pissed I am that they stole money and stole points from me and stole position from me. And I'm still sour about it. But at the same time, we're going to flip around and talk about how it's a spectacle. There's nothing else like it.
we've all agreed when you walk through the
There's
gates, and
nothing
we just
like
talked about it today. When you walk through the gates, you know you're subjected to being a circus animal.
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is.
And that's where there's probably, just kind of running off numbers in my head, a dozen of us who have grown up over there.
Sure.
The rest of them are mixed in that have come now and then, or maybe they're new to it and whatnot. And those 12 drivers understand it. And those are most of them keep a level head, and they understand. Saturday night, the reason I got turned around in that wreck is Lee got into me. He said, man, my spotter yelled, and I checked up. I'm really sorry, man. I hated that happen, because you know what? Lee knew we were running 10.
And here's the thing. You're going to race Lee the next time you go back. And here's the thing about it. You could be mad at Lee and run him over. Then he's going to run over you and you run over him. I seem to remember a rivalry with another driver that happened with the Myers family. And it was like every week.
Yeah.
You knew if that black 4 and that 69 car were up front, somebody was going to get turned. It
Yeah.
didn't matter what happened. It was
Right.
just the way that it was going to be.
Right.
We don't see as much of that. We still have some rivalries. There's still probably some drivers that are probably not on your top 10 of people you'd like to invite to your next birthday party.
Right.
But at the end of the day, you got to race those guys every
Yeah.
single
Yeah.
week. And you know the consequences can be severe.
Yeah.
You've made some choices that I've witnessed that may have cost you a race or maybe even a championship.
Absolutely.
I've seen that happen also. We watched it, 2 years ago with Tim?
Yeah.
The champion opportunity to win championship.
He knew. It's funny because the car you're talking about still on the
Finally got his
on our
first ring.
screen over
Yeah,
here. But somebody said, well, why would Tim spin that guy knowing that guy was going to run back over him? Because Tim was at a crossroads.
Absolutely. He had to make a choice.
All right, I spin this guy
Yeah.
out. Maybe he doesn't get me, and maybe I win the championship.
You're right.
I'm taking that chance.
But we
know that.
we back that up.
We know that.
2 years prior to that, you were in Brandon's situation, or the year prior to that, you're in Brandon's situation.
That was a little different.
It was a racing deal.
And that was a racing deal that I still ain't understood yet, but that's okay.
At the end of it, it was a racing deal. But you know what? We talked about that passion. Brandon felt like it was intentional. So what did Brandon do?
Yeah, he ran back over me.
He
Right.
ran back over you.
Right, but I think that where I'm leading up to that is the guys that you're single file and you're running 5th and 6th and they're
100%.
beating your back bumper off.
Yeah.
Those are the guys that haven't grown up over there.
Sure.
And I've said that several times on here. They don't understand exactly how it works just yet. Danny Bone, we talked about when Danny was on here. Danny said, I did it.
Yeah.
I did it. I beat the guy's back bumper off. He said, but after I raced there a while, I was like,
There's no point in it.
why?
And we understand.
Why stir the bee's nest when you don't have to?
There are going to be times we're going to make contact because we're racing close. We're driving hard. You missed your mark. I missed my mark. I got in the fuel too soon. I braked too late. You braked too early. Whatever it may be, there's going to be times that we're going to make. We're human. Just like we talked about with scoring earlier. There are going to be mistakes.
Yeah.
How many laps have you run at Bowman Gray, Burt? How many laps is it? Thousands and thousands and
thousands
thousands.
and thousands. Yeah.
You could close your eyes right now and run a perfect lap
Yeah,
around there.
probably could.
But
Well, I
I
don't know if I'll ever run a perfect lap around there, but
in your mind, you could. But
in my mind, yes, I could close my eyes and make a lap around Bowman.
But I guarantee that there have been every lap you could have got a little more, or maybe you could have changed something a little different. Well, the time that you're changing is the same time that I got back to the fuel, 1/10,000th of a second quicker than you do. And it happens to be that my bumper got underneath your bumper and you got shoved out through the infield.
Yeah.
And we may have raced each other for 25 years and never had an issue. But in that moment, guess what we have? We now have an
Got an
issue.
issue.
Yes. Absolutely.
You were talking about how other people view Bowman Gray based just on YouTube, and that was my biggest problem with the Staley stuff this weekend. Like you had that black and orange car that raced the Staley car on the outside.
On the
for like
outside.
8 or
Impressive.
9 laps, clean. I mean,
Yes.
it was good racing.
Great racing.
You know, all the people were cheering, like you could hear it. It was great racing until the
Till the issue.
conclusion.
Till it wasn't.
But
Right,
but that
so-
great racing didn't make
That's
the
exactly
highlight.
right.
Right.
So you got side by side racing for the lead for 7, 8, 9 laps, whatever it is. No contact around the football field, flat, no banking. And it was great.
Kudos to Brad Lewis. I mean, he was
100%.
on the fuel and he was getting it turned.
I've never met him before. I stopped by his pit on the way out. And
Humble
I
guy.
said, "You've never met me before?"
They showed me his post he made, and I was really impressed with the post.
Yes, very humble guy.
He's like,
Absolutely.
look here, if you want to be my fan, and I'm getting all because he said I think he was getting a lot of friend requests.
Sure.
He said, if you want to be a fan of ours, thank you, appreciate it. If you're a fan of somebody else, that's okay too, but don't come on my page with all that.
Yeah, don't
I'm
bring it
not
over
that
here.
guy. I'm not
Absolutely.
the drama queen. That was pretty.
I made a point to
somebody
stop
showed
by
me
his
post
pit
he made.
and
Yeah.
introduce myself. And I said, "You don't know me from Adam." I said, "I watched that entire race, and I said I was thoroughly entertained, and you did it the right way.
Absolutely.
And the choices
Well,
you
and
made,
I've talked about it on
you
here
didn't
too,
have a choice.
about how I go up and watch as many races as I can.
Sure.
Because I'm a fan at that point.
Right.
I'm a modified racer, but when other divisions are out there, I'm a fan. And I go up there and I watch and I cheer and I pull and I analyze and I'm a fan. So if somebody like me that's been going over there my whole life, I'm still a fan.
Absolutely.
So that's why I encourage people, before you make a comment, just come see it one time, because I promise you'll be a fan.
Yeah, there's
once you see
racing
it.
there.
Absolutely.
I mean, how many guys have we seen over there that work in different, cup garages, Xfinity garages, whatever, and they've never been
yeah.
over there before. And then they come over there, and after they watch, they're like, "Man, you can really race over
Yeah.
here."
Well, even Mike Wallace on the broadcast, on the Flow
Yeah.
broadcast. Unfortunately, I've been kind of down for about 6 weeks, so I've been watching from Flow until this week's my first week back at the track. But they had Mike Wallace in the booth, and I heard him and Dylan are talking about it. He's like, "Man, as long as I've been here, I've never been here."
Yeah.
So, I mean, this place is
I
awesome.
talked to him in the pits. He said, I cannot believe I've never been here before.
It really is. It really is a thing. And quickly to touch on your YouTube thing and people seeing the bad press. 3 years ago, I went and got a broadcast degree from Connecticut School of Broadcast, and not really for anything other than video editing and doing the stuff that we do at Velocita. But one of the things that I learned, part of it, we had to learn news, because we actually had to do a newscast. And it says, if good news were good, that would be bad news indeed. Think about the last time you've watched, unless it's like Roy's Folks or what, I don't watch the news, so Roy may be gone now, but very seldom do we have a feel-good story on the news.
Yeah, it's all bad news.
No,
Absolutely, because good news doesn't sell. Bad news sells.
Right.
That's your YouTube thing.
you're right.
Everybody, very few people embrace those heartfelt moments. Everybody embraces those chaotic driver double drop kicks a windshield, tears a hood off.
Right.
Because here's the thing, at the end of the day, that is entertaining.
Mm.
And whether we want to admit it or not, you're an entertainer.
Yeah.
And we are competing on Saturday night for those entertainment dollars. I don't know if you remember, but Saturday night, early in the night, when you came up to the Pinnacle deal, and I think I gave away the golden shoe for the.
I heard you
award,
giving it away, yeah.
Chris, and then we're down there. There probably wasn't 3,000 people in the grandstands. I was like, man, we're gonna have a weeknight, because that we could have rained.
Yeah.
But you know what? When that green flag fell, man, it wasn't packed.
Yeah.
But
It was
man,
still decent, yeah.
They had fielded. I bet there was
Yeah.
10,000 plus there Saturday
Yeah.
night. It's like we're waiting to the last moment, but it's $12 entertainment. I can take the wife there for $24. We're in. If we happen to be succumbed to concessions there, we may spend more money or whatever. But if we ate before we came, and the show starts late enough, you can do that.
Mhm.
You can still bring your family. It's still good entertainment dollars. I remember sitting there watching that whole thing go down with the Staley family, and Patrick's wife and his two girls are sitting there with me. And they're just, I should have videoed the faces. And they're like, "Oh, this is really happening right now." I'm like, this ain't scripted. Like, it just.
Right.
That's another thing people used to ask me, is it really like that? I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I liked your video you did about where they came up and they said, "Hey, do you have the script for this upcoming week for
Yeah,
Bowman Gray?"
absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
For some people, I think that probably hit more than others, just
Yeah.
because
'Cause-
being involved with Bert, and everybody thinks he's got deep pockets,
It
endless
looks that
amounts
way.
of money.
Yeah.
He pays the officials.
They want me to win.
They
and all
want him
that.
to
Oh, yeah.
win.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Golden
can't, but you
Boy
said you
this.
paid to get in. You pay to get in?
I have to pay to get
They
in.
send me like 50 tickets a week.
I have to pay to get in.
Joking,
I
right?
know.
You know better than
But
that.
I was watching that, and I started dying laughing out loud when I saw that video, because that was just
That's why whenever we talked about you coming on, I knew that you have somewhat of the same story and same feelings that I have, because we grew up.
We're a couple years apart, and strangely enough, a lot of folks don't know this one. We were actually nemesis. We didn't like each other when we both raced 4-cylinders against each other. And I remember one night we were racing for about third or fourth, and
I
I
don't
don't
think
know.
I was ever that high up.
I don't know if
thanks for
I
the
don't know
credit.
if I came down or he came up, but long story short, I got turned into the fence head on, right? And I was running a Pontiac Astro. That's a Vega for y'all that don't know. And you had a Datsun or something. It looked,
Datsun 510,
it
baby.
looked like a refrigerator box
Yes,
with
it did.
and it was black paint, had a number 4 on it.
Black and pink with a
And
4, yep.
man, I could not have been more mad at a human in my life. And we mouthed back and forth that night or whatever. And this leads into another story. And I don't know if this is true. And I've always wanted to ask you this.
All right.
So we didn't really get along the rest of that year. I mean, it was, I don't think I spun you out. We may have been in separate races because back in the day we had 54 centers.
Yeah.
So we may never even race against each other the rest of the year. So my first ever modified race was at Concord. And the tour hadn't been there in 3 or 4 years. So a lot of guys had never been to Concord. Well, we had been running Concord every other week. And we had run late models there. We had run the Pro 4 cars, which were actually faster than late models because we didn't have any rules. I had to have a 4-cylinder engine. And I had actually practiced and tested a Super there several hundred laps. So I already knew you barely had to lift to get into one and you could run through the dog leg wide open. They didn't know.
Yeah.
So they show up that Thursday night and they have no idea who I am. I'm driving a car for Brent Elliott. And I mean, conservatively, we're a half second faster than everybody. And I think Hitchcock was the second quickest. And everybody's like, they thought I was a Yankee. And then they realized I was a Smith. And they're asking Philip, they're like, was he kin to you? And he goes, well, I know his daddy, but he ain't no kin to me. Then they're like, well, that's got to be some kin to Don and Dean. And I ain't no kin to them either. And they're like, well, who is this guy? It was just local track knowledge. We show back up that Saturday, drivers meeting, some weird things happened. Anyway, Brent comes back and he says, man, Bert stopped me. And he said, is that the same Brad Smith that I used to race at Bowman? And Brent said, yeah, I told him you still mad at him too. And he's like, God. And at that point, I didn't know how quick modifieds could put you in the fence. But I found out that Saturday night because we went out to qualify. And even in practice, we were still faster than everybody. We had wired our alternator backwards, which decharges the batteries, it turns out. We didn't know that.
Okay.
Because some one of them new one-wire deals, we decharged the battery, and where they had pumped the motor, because I had never been, they never put the rocker arms. They never set the valve lash, so I had tons of valve. So they pushed me around for 4 laps trying to qualify. I couldn't qualify. There was 25 cars there. Y'all voted in the drivers' meeting to let me start. They're like, well, he's new. What harm can he be? So we start 25th, and we drove that thing from 25th up to about 10th. I think most of them were on the outside in about 12 laps. On lap 13, guess what I found out? How far you cannot drive a modified into turn 3.
You found the edge, huh?
We started wrecking coming out of 4, and we quit wrecking coming out of 1, and we just piled that one up, and we were done with that car after that.
Well,
I did not know you could hit stuff that hard.
You don't hit easy at Concord.
No, sir. That was a fast, scary,
I
scary.
always
It still
heard-
breaks my heart when I ride by there and see a
Oh, man. That was,
junkyard.
I always
sitting
heard
there.
Concord. It was so fast. It was dangerous. It was one of the best places
you
to be
didn't-
dangerous.
It could be.
Yeah.
Yes.
It could be.
It could absolutely be. It could absolutely
Well,
be.
the problem is like he said, you had 10 cars that were in a 3/10 of each other bracket, and then the rest of the field was a half a second or a second off.
And the problem is you catch those
you
cars
catch them and you're like,
too
whoa,
fast.
Yeah.
and it's almost impossible to react.
Yeah.
Because
Can't get out of the way fast. They couldn't get out of the way.
everybody is moving around. I remember a north-south shootout we had down there, and you were bad fast. And we went out and we qualified, and I qualified like 4th or 5th. And we rode across the scales, and Robert was taking. He pulled the air cleaner off. He says, "Yeah, that ain't gonna work." And I was like, "I was hoping I wouldn't have to come to the scales." He says, "Well, you're gonna have to run a heat race." And I was like, "That's all right."
Yeah.
So we went over, and we did put a 390 on, but it was a special one. And I believe Philip ended up with that too. I had a special 390, and I had to start tailback in that heat race. And we may or may not have had some tires that had accidentally got some weed killer or something on.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes
You
that
cleaned
happens.
them. You just had to clean them, yeah.
But we railed that heat race like we owned that thing. And we showed up at the scales, and Robert looked at me and said, "Should I take the air cleaner off?" I says, "It does look better. It probably don't look like you won't." And he goes, "How about if I was to take a durometer of them tires?" I said, "You want me to just go ahead and roll it off the scales?" He said, "That'd probably be best for both of us." So we did have a real good north-south shootout, but it did not go our way. But I believe that was one of the years you challenged for the win down there. You guys had
I don't remember. I won in 08 and 09.
it was before then. You had
Okay.
you were a top 5 car, but you led some that day. You know what? I almost think it was the year that Donnie Leah won and Gene Pack bought his car out of Victory Lane.
I remember that.
Yes.
I remember
I'm
that.
almost thinking that was
Yeah.
the year that all that went down. So,
Those are 2 names I hadn't heard in a while.
Yeah.
but we did race smart against each other. We
Yeah.
never had an
We
altercation.
raced
or incident.
friendship. We ran friendship.
We did.
Yeah.
I did run over your dad a couple times, not on purpose.
Not on purpose.
I didn't run out of town. I never had any. So you can't really say that.
Golly.
I remember a friendship one night we were racing. I believe your dad was leading and Junior was running second. And Brent is screaming at me on the radio. He says, every time you get to the corner, I want you to hit that 69 car as hard as you can because they hate each other. Nobody's going to realize you did it and you'll get your first win. I'm running in there, man. I don't think I could have hit Junior no harder. I don't know that he's got dentures, but if he did, he probably could have swallowed them that night. But I was running in there as hard as I could trying to get that first win. And the first win that I probably should have got was a Sunday race. And I actually sold my car that Monday at the SMART meeting. I got my first ever SMART pole. I finally figured out how
I
to
remember
beat
that.
LW for pole. We were at Friendship.
I remember that. Yep.
And to the best of my knowledge, nobody ever went quicker than that. It was like a 13009. It was wicked fast. And we had worked our butts off. I wasn't driving for Brent anymore. I had bought the Meservies out. I bought Dan Meservy out from up north. Philip wound up with one of those cars, which Jay ended up running. That red car with the chrome, real pretty car. And I had the yellow and black car. And we finally put it on the pole. And we got rained out. And I got mad at that SMART meeting over technical stuff. And sold my car that night. Chad Freeman showed up at the shop that night. Now, I priced the car. This is funny. So, Puddin and Philip buy this car, right? Would you say there are two guys that are any better friends than these guys?
Oh, they're
They live in the
tight.
same town.
Yeah. Well,
right?
Philip, when Philip got burned,
Yeah,
I think Puddin was a big
100%.
part of Philip, taking care of Philip, making sure Philip got well.
So, these guys
Yeah.
are near, I mean, they're not blood related, but they might as well be.
Might as well be.
They're
right.
as dear of friends as could ever be. So, Chad calls me. He goes, well, what do you want for the car race ready? And I priced the car. He said, well, Puddin really just wants the car. And he said, I think Philip wants your motor. And I said, well, if I split it up, I want this. Okay. So Chad calls me up. And now they're sitting, my shop at the time was in Louisville, my dad's basement of his business. Chad calls me. He goes, hey, man, you going to be at the shop today? And I'm like, yeah. They're sitting right up at the shopping center with an open trailer and the box truck. He said, I got you money. He said, we just want the car. And I said, well, I ain't even took the motor out of you. He said, well, we'll take it, and then they'll do that. Philip pays me his part. Puddin, or Chad pays me Puddin's part, and it was like $5,000 more than they could have just bought the car and split it up. Well, they decide to leave the car together, and they go back because y'all are going to make up for the rain out. They put Lee Jeffries in the car. So he goes up there, and Lee qualifies like 16th in the same car that I just set on the pole. I haven't even touched it. Like, we still have the same tires, the whole deal on it. So Puddin calls my dad, and my dad and Puddin have been dear friends for years, and my daddy is cussing me like a dog. You get to Kernersville right now, and you figure out what's wrong with that race car. He bought this car as a winning car, blah, blah, blah. I get over there, and I'm sorry, Chad, I got to throw you under the bus. I walk in, and all my pro shops are not on the car. And we ran iBox springs, and this thing has got yellow springs on it. And they'd moved my track bar from the left to the right. Anyway, the whole car was completely wrong. I called my dad, and I went in there and told Puddin, I said, until you put it back that way, that car will never turn and do what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
Years later, Jonathan Brown starts driving for Puddin. And Gerald, if you guys don't know Gerald was my crew chief, so to speak. Gerald kept telling Jonathan, Brad can make that car fast. Had them Richie Spindle's new car. We spent a bunch of money on that car. So Jonathan calls me and says, man, will you help me get this car fast? I says, I will, but if you're not willing to do everything, I'm not willing to help you with one thing. You can call Jonathan right now. He got his first pole and his first win that Saturday night. We put that car back. Danny Bone won a championship. I will arguably say, and I know y'all had some awesome race cars that made a lot of seasons. That historically was probably one of the best cars that I have seen in the South.
Yeah.
It was an old 34-inch wide, 98.
The wide car, they called it. The wide car.
Man, that thing drove like a dream. And honestly, I feel like I couldn't do no wrong in that car. Danny did. How many races did Danny win in that car?
Yeah.
How many races did Jonathan win?
Yeah.
So, but Bert and I, we raced each other a bunch in Smart, raced with Jay and all of them, and just had a great time. Unfortunately for me, dirt got in my soul, and man, it was hard to ever go back.
Financially, that's the smarter route.
I will say it pays.
We'll say that. I know
It pays
that.
substantially better. I will tell you
know.
that for sure.
Well, tell me a little bit about your company and your brand, because I see it all over the place. I mean, I see it at Millbridge, I see it at Bowman Gray, I see it at Caraway, everywhere I go around here, it's everywhere.
You know, Philip, I appreciate that, and we've been doing this deal a little over 20 years, and everything that I've ever done in business has come from necessity. We did their radios back in the day, long before racing electronics and racing radios had any involvement in this area. We kind of dominated or owned that market. It all comes from necessity. And for me, I've always been at the time I'd been into electronics, and I didn't understand why radios cost so much. I didn't understand why we did the things that we did, and I just felt like there was a better way. Well, I kind of dug my heels into it, and we built a business out of it. I sold that to a gentleman up in New Jersey, and that business is still flourishing today. The safety thing, again, came from necessity, man. If you called Brand X And at the time, there was probably only 6 or 7 manufacturers. Today, there are about 70, believe it or not,
Wow.
that fall in the SFI program. If you called them, you didn't know how much a suit was going to cost. They couldn't tell you until they ran your digitizing, until they ran your embroidery. And you may pay brand X $3,000 at the PRI show for a suit. You get your suit, and guess what you got? You got a surprise with it. It was another $482 bill. I'm like, man, there's got to be a better way. So we had been a Simpson distributor 2005 through about 2008, and we mostly did drag race stuff. But I also did some truck guys, some over the wall. We're close enough to Mooresville. We did a whole bunch of that stuff. And I would see it. Number one, they never made a deadline, ever. It was always a month late. It always cost more. It never looked like they wanted, and there was always fitting issues. There's got to be a better way. Well, my dad and I had been in textile sales our whole lives, clothing, fabric, and I was like, man, this is something I really want to embrace. So teamed up with a group of tailors who were contract manufacturers for the military, and one thing kind of led to another, and Velocita was born. It took off faster than we anticipated, and we really hit the market and the timing right. Nobody was offering all-inclusive suit pricing. You knew exactly how much my stuff was going to cost the day you paid me for it, and if it went over that, I ate the difference. We weren't amortizing embroidery and digitizing and your flash work. You remember the old Simpson catalogs? You pick out design L, well, that design had $650, and then your logos ad, digitizing was $843. Embroidery was $542, plus the base garment was $1,200 or $1,300. You got a $3,000 fire suit. Started looking at this and reached out to DuPont and got Nomex and figured out what it cost. Found out that there was a lot of variations. We could talk about this forever, but I just figured out there was a better, faster, simpler way. And fortunately for me, I wasn't wrong. That grew from me in my basement by myself to right now we have a little over 20 people on staff, and our office staff, our support staff. We've got field reps all over the United States. Our national trade show rig is at they're in South Dakota right now, headed to North Dakota for the Dakota Mod Tour. And we have built our business for the most part around dirt. Like we talked earlier, most dirt track guys that are doing it all the time, a 40 race season means we had 40 rainouts, because those guys are running 60, 70, 80 nights a year. Bobby Pierce, one of our top guys, Ryan Gustin, those guys may run upwards of 90 shows a year. Nobody can do that in one fire suit.
No, there's
It's
no
kinda
way.
like those F-15s. They're really only good for the first race. They're not that great for the second race,
Right.
but we got to run them.
Yeah.
Asphalt racers will milk a driving suit. I'm not going to pick on Mitch Gales, but Mitch Gales had the same fire suit so long that black suit had turned brown. Mitch and I kind of worked out a gentleman's agreement. We were able to get Mitch updated, but we're behind a windshield. And I'd be willing to say we could walk through the modified pit right now, and I bet we could pick out 3 or 4 guys that are probably wearing fire suits maybe as old as your child.
Yeah.
And I know there's guys in Street Stock and some of these others. So for me, it's just a passion about safety. And then we got hooked up, and I won't call anybody out because they've been able to help us with some stuff. But we're really fortunate to have an incredible burn program through the college systems on the East Coast. And when they found out what we were doing and that we were really studying, here's the thing: anybody can buy Nomex, and anybody can buy Meta Aramid. Meta Aramid is what most of the offshore stuff is made out of, and it kind of works like Nomex. It's not that we're trying to figure out how not to prevent fire, because fire is going to come.
Sure.
But how do we keep that driver from getting burnt? Because I'm going to bet you right now, he's been burnt before, but it maybe had nothing to do with fire. We knocked a collector off. Something was in the tunnel. The floor got hot. So we started studying the science of why drivers get burnt, and we found out it came through moisture and moisture wicking. So we started pursuing that path, which also made the suit cooler. It made the suit drier, and we can reduce the chances of that driver being burnt, because if you took a piece of frozen bacon out of the freezer and you threw it in a hot frying pan, it would take a few minutes to sizzle. If you took cold bacon out of the refrigerator and threw it in, it'll sizzle immediately. Basically, we've studied that science. How do we tighten that up so that our driver is drier, so they're less likely to become burnt? From that comes cooling, comes all that. These technical shirts, Sport Tech, all that, they've done that in a non-FR. We've pursued that actively from an FR standpoint. So that's kind of where we've spent our time, our effort, and our energy. And then we looked at the way racing shoes are made, and it's like, that's wrong. So why don't we make a shoe that actually flexes? I'm the only manufacturer in the world that builds a true wide shoe. I got shoes that ducks could wear. These things are super duper wide. Because you know what? Here's the thing, man. I've got drivers. You guys know Kyle Larson, right? I've got a guy in Iowa. His last name is Larson. This guy wears a size 16 wide shoe. This is a man's man. My man's 380 pounds. Kelly Smith in New York. This guy's 6'9", 6'10", 400 pounds. Nobody builds a shoe for him. I do. So we've taken that more grassroots approach. we came onto the scene as one of our competitors who you now see in Cup, Truck, Bush, and all that. We didn't want to go that route. We didn't want to pursue that. We wanted to pursue the Saturday night short track races. The guy who's waiting on his pay envelope on Saturday night,
Right.
that's my guy, and that's where my passion's at. Do I have some guys that are running radial tires? Yes. Do we have some over the wall stuff? Yes. Do we chase that business? Absolutely not. Because that Saturday night guy who might not be able to go racing Saturday because his paycheck went in a day late, that's where my heart's at. That's where my heart's always going to be. And that's why we've poured our heart into IMCA, USMTS, USRA,
Right.
the Crate Racing USA, the Street Stock Series, those kind of deals. It's great that you see. I mean, how many Cup guys are there at the end of the day? Maybe 50 total teams. When we look at that thing, I don't think there's actually that many. There are thousands and thousands and thousands
Oh,
of
yeah.
Street Stock racers you've never
Oh,
heard
yeah.
their name,
Yeah.
who are delighted, number one, to pay full price. They appreciate the customer service. They appreciate the follow-up. They know that we're going to take care of them. We're not going to let those guys go without under any circumstance whatsoever. Recently, I had a really good friend of mine who got a suit from another manufacturer, and the suit did not fit. This driver had a very high-profile event that they had never had the opportunity to do, and they couldn't even get a call back. And this is a relationship that they had thought they had had for a very, very, very long time. That driver reached out and said, "Hey, I'm in a pickle. I got a situation. Can you help me out?" We were able to come in there and take care of it. Won't call any names, won't say any driver's name, won't say any manufacturer's name. But it's unfortunate that driver had that kind of relationship and couldn't get that back. We don't do this part-time. I got people sitting in the office right now. I've got after hours people. I've got people at racetracks all over America. My phone number is on the website. You can actually call and talk to me, text me, whatever you want to do. We're going to go the extra mile every single time. And we built our business around that philosophy. And that's kind of why you see what you see, Millbridge,
Right.
Bowman Gray, some of those things. And, for us, it's important. We want to keep our drivers safe, and we want to keep things as affordable as we can too.
Did you see the picture? I think I got Devin to prime it. I know Corey Latham took it. I think it was at Tri-County this past weekend, that car,
The fire.
the inside.
Absolutely.
And I don't know what, and I don't know what that guy was wearing.
So, and I don't know either. And honestly, this is embarrassing to say. He may be my customer.
Yeah.
I mean, the unfortunate part about what I do is, we have touched the lives of 77,000, and this was last year when we counted in November. We have touched the lives of 77,000 different names in our customer database with some level of safety product, whether that was a pair of gloves, a suit, shoes, helmet, head and neck restraint, seat belts, whatever that was. We've done business now on 3 continents and 17 countries. Man, I'm excited about that. The thing that is shameful to me, 2 years ago, I went to Slinger Speedway and walked through the pits, and I had people walk up to me and shake my hand and thank me for what we're doing, and I don't know who they are. It hurts my heart because I used to know every driver's name. I used to know everybody everywhere. It makes me feel good to watch races on flow at a racetrack I've never been to. And knock on wood, so I'm 52 years old. I visited my 300th racetrack last year.
Wow.
I've been everywhere, it feels like, but obviously I've not. To walk down pit road and see, man, that guy's got block. He's got block. He's wearing block. He's wearing Velocita. It makes you feel good that your efforts have not gone unnoticed. We're not the biggest safety equipment company, and we never will be. And God forbid that we ever become that way, because I don't want to lose sight of what's important.
Well, you can
racer safety.
you can outgrow your growth,
100%.
and then you lose what's made you special. And I'm probably more safety conscious than most, just because I come from law enforcement. I always wanted my vest to be top tier, top
Absolutely.
quality. Because it's not a matter of if there's going to be a fire; it's when. It's not a matter of if hot rounds going to come down range. It's just when. So when I see some of these guys, and like my son helps with a 4-cylinder guy, he's their best friends. He's like 18, 19 years old, and he's got this driving suit that it's probably older than all of us. It's got a hole from his from the rooter all the way up the tooter, all the way up the front. He doesn't wear gloves, and it drives me crazy, because I remember Tommy Neal's fire.
Absolutely.
Coming out of 4. And you see things like this, and until they hear the message and they know that there's a place that, and with the 4 cylinders, being 19 years old and not a budget necessarily like Bert or Tim or somebody else might have, they have to spend their dollars
wisely. And in an opinion, what their wisely is. Unfortunately, and I'm going to say this, and there's going to be some people who are going to give me some backlash, and that's okay. Safety is an afterthought. Speed never has been.
You're exactly right.
Case in point,
You're exactly right.
I'm at the auto fair 3 or 4 years ago. Guy's got this bad to the bone Dodge Coronet 440 with a blower on it, right? 2.4's the whole deal. And I look down, my man's got drum brakes all the way around. I look at my buddy that's with me. I said, remind me never to ride with that guy. I mean, we've got 1,500 horsepower and we've got drum brakes on a car. It's not something that's important to us at all. One of the cool things about my job is fewer than 1% of racers will ever experience catastrophic fire. That is the best part of my job. You know the worst part of my job?
There is a person.
Fewer than 1% of racers will ever experience catastrophic fire. And what does that mean? We're all chasing pretty. Very few of us are chasing. Very few times do we ever get a call and go, hey man, what's your TPP rating? What was your char length at SFI? What was your thermal penetration? What was your burn through rate? You know,
Right.
What is the shelf life of a suit? Why can I only wear a suit 2 years? Nobody wants to know that.
No.
Very few, a handful of mom and dads have gone through and read the SFI safety protocol and program, but very few racers have. Oh, I get a deal here, so I get that. Oh, well, you know what? I ain't never had a fire before. Does that mean it's never going to come?
How many people would not even drive in a race suit if it wasn't mandated?
It's funny. We literally just had that conversation. I'm trying to think who was that. Maybe it was Chuck Wall at the shop, or maybe it's Charlie Curry. They live both real close. I said, man, there are guys who would go out there with bubble goggles, their ball cap turned around backwards, T-shirts and shorts, just like we're
Ariat
dressed today.
boots, yeah.
And absolutely, we watch them ride their
I'll tell you a
four-wheelers
funny
and dirt
story.
bikes.
We were at Caraway one time, and this was when my dad started driving for Philip, and Philip wanted to get in the car and make a few laps. Philip was in a catastrophic fire,
Very, very much so.
got bad scars from it, and he hopped in there with his blue button-up shirt with Philip on the front and just threw a helmet on, no gloves, short sleeves, and the whole 9 yards. So that kind of answers your question, but we grew up in a different time too.
Absolutely.
You know, it's the whole Earnhardt theory. It happened to Earnhardt, sparked everything that we are fortunate enough to have.
And
in
it started
our
an
space now.
industry with the head and neck restraint. Our friend Bobby Hutchins was one of the first guys to come up with some type of, and you probably have one of the same. That was the most god awful torturous device.
I never had one. I saw
The
one.
Hutchins
Well, I remember
device, man.
Junior fought having to wear one of the two for the longest
I
time.
was black flagged at 2 different NASCAR events for not having gloves on in practice.
Yeah.
So I've been there. I've been there.
And one of the things that I will say about NASCAR, you know, I remember when NASCAR came down and our smart tour theoretically went away. Man, wheel tethers, this fuel cell thing, the Mercury switch, all the other stuff, and all of us, not some of us, not one of us, all of us were complaining. Man, we ain't never had to do this. Honestly, they finally made us pay attention to what was important, and what was most important was that package that's wrapped up in that seat.
Yeah.
We weren't paying attention to that.
Yeah.
And how many great racers did we lose because of fire?
Yeah.
Because of catastrophe, the head and neck restraint thing, whatever it may be. How many great racers did we lose that would still be here today if they had either A, paid attention, or B, the industry had been paying attention and keeping up with what was going on?
Yeah, 100%. I agree.
This was a long one.
Yeah, it was. Devin's gotten up in the
my
bathroom
rant,
3
Yeah,
times.
Devin's over here like
Yeah, he can edit a lot of this out.
So,
He's-
yeah, he can.
You wanna
I
play
will,
Santa Claus?
with my rant about the scoring, and I told Brad, well, I don't know if I said it before we started or not. I said, if we're not careful, we'll be here till 4 o'clock this afternoon.
Yeah.
We're both talkers.
We
and
are,
We both
we
have
are.
good stories.
Yes.
So, every guest. Sorry, Devin, I wasn't at the mic. This is your Citrusafe
Man, look at that.
deep cleaning grill kit.
Excited.
All of our guests get now. And just so everybody knows, we didn't present it to Kip and Chris on air.
On
They
air.
did get their kit.
Yes.
So
One of them may have left with more than
you
one.
may have
Yes.
I think
It's free,
you
it's
got
for
some
me.
hats and stuff too, which you're welcome to.
I actually grilled out last night, so and I'm actually a Citrusafe customer. I went into Lowe's Home Improvement 3, 4, 5 years ago. I think I sent you a picture of it.
Yeah, I
I was like,
think
look
you
what I
did.
just found.
Yeah.
I was like, man, he's like,
Yeah.
they're Lowe's, man.
It's
So
good
I've
stuff.
actually used
Yeah.
the product, and part of that deal is too. We try to support those who support us.
Absolutely.
We changed our box company to Phoenix Packaging about 8 years ago
Yeah.
because Erica and Tom support automobile racing. We had a relationship with a box manufacturer for 15 years. Her prices are higher, but the fact that she supports automobile racing absolutely makes me want to support her.
Well, I've said
Same thing with Tommy, man.
All my marriages, I've gone to Hayes Jewelers.
There you go.
All of them.
I
Absolutely.
bought lots of stuff from Bruce and Zach.
Absolutely.
Yeah, from Hayes. So
Great
yeah,
people.
They
Great
are,
people.
They are.
Support those sponsors. That's
Yeah.
what keeps us all
Absolutely.
coming back.
Well, as
So the-
racers, what's the first thing we do? You get the program out, or you think about a car you saw going around the racetrack. If you need some sort of service,
Absolutely.
you know, plumber, for example. Let's
Yeah.
say you got Ronnie Clifton. We grew up
Oh,
with the Cliftons.
and Zach
So,
Kogar, because
yeah,
Kogar's been there
so,
too.
yeah,
I've bought
so that's
vehicles
how it
from
works.
I've bought vehicles from Todd Hunt. Todd Hunt bought a vehicle from me last
That's
week.
how it
So
works.
I'm building a house. I'm gonna call Mr. Laughlin about some
Yep,
concrete.
absolutely.
Yep.
Keep it in the circle. But
yes, and that's not just for us guys. Whatever racetrack you're at, even if you don't have a program, you look at those billboards around there.
Yep.
Support those people
Yes.
because they're supporting your deal and they're making sure
Absolutely.
that racetrack is healthy and wholesome.
that's right.
And that's nationwide. That's worldwide. Our Canadian friends too, same deal. Those billboards mean something, man. And pay attention. If you're wanting to go out to eat and there's a bar and grill that's on there, man, go try 'em.
Go check it out.
You know,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Saturday, July 4th
5th,
show.
July 4th weekend, Bowman Gray. Everybody knows Bowman Gray takes off, and we run a smart race that weekend. So we got Caraway this weekend for the smart tour. I don't think I've seen a list yet, but I've heard there's a really good car count. My guess is 26, 7
Probably,
cars maybe. A lot of guys have been sitting on jack stands for a little while. I got to thinking about this, and you can help me with this, Brad. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think current, there's only 2 drivers that run full-time smart and full-time Bowman Gray.
There's only 2 that I can think of for
Okay.
sure. Yeah.
Okay, I
Yep.
know Brandon goes back and forth.
Right.
I know Speeny maybe went to Wilkesboro last year, but and if I'm leaving somebody out, I apologize. Danny Bone runs some and some. There's only 2 that run both full
All the time.
and they're both in this room right
Right.
now. So we know that we're going to Caraway this weekend. We'll be there. Looking for a good show.
Some track changes.
Yeah, I'm curious about that.
I've seen that. So I was curious. Have y'all been down
I
there
haven't-
since all that
I haven't
changed?
tested on it. So
I heard if you get on,
slick.
the apron, you're probably gonna be facing the wrong way.
Well, here's the thing: you give a racer more racetrack, he's going to use it.
Yeah.
Well, the
Whether it
thing
works out
is,
for him or not, he's probably going to use
Yeah.
it. So
you now have the ability to get on the apron because with the curbing we didn't before.
Yeah.
Correct.
If you touched it, you were going the wrong way. Now that we
Right.
have the apron, I think by the end of the night, man, we'll see some.
I think you're going to
tires
see
below that
it.
white
Yeah,
line for
I think
sure.
you're going to see people try to use it. Like I said, whether you're both facing the right direction after you
And
get
one
it,
quick shout out, man. Chris has done a phenomenal job with the Smart Tour. I know a lot of people didn't have a lot of faith in him. Honestly, me too. I was at that initial meeting. I was pretty passionate about bringing the 525 deal in. I've got a pretty tight connection with Chevrolet, and they were willing to come in and do some things. Timing wasn't right. Chris has brought together what he has done. It is awesome. I've only made it to a couple, but I don't miss them on flow at
Yeah.
all. Some of the best racing, man. It's great to see some of our northern friends have come down. Man, how about freaking Paulie Hartwig? Gee
Yeah.
whiz, that kid
Yep.
is absolutely a shoe. Which, granted, the kid was born with a steering wheel in his hand.
Yeah.
So it's great to see, man. It's great to see.
I remember he was at Concord, I think, for a shootout or Caraway or something. It was like, oh yeah, that's probably. I said, that kid races. He's like this.
Yeah,
I said,
absolutely.
that kid, and then he goes by, and I swear the seat looked like a car seat.
Yeah.
in a baby car
Yeah.
seat. He is like literally his helmet looks this big around, and he's this close to the steering wheel because he can't reach the pedals. I said, that kid's racing today.
Yes.
So,
And now he's 6 foot tall. And,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Quick yes or no question, so we don't go down the rabbit hole for another hour. Modifieds on a road course, yes or no?
you heard did you listen to my spiel?
I did not, and I don't want to hear
Okay,
about
well,
it. So
then
I
you don't
give
need to
an
call me.
opinion. I can give mine.
Just yes or no.
Yes.
I will say this. I've talked to several different people since then on the technical side of things, whether our motors
Mm-hmm.
will hold up. Because I didn't think about this. We're always turning left.
Mhm.
All right. So if a certain motor is designed to always turn left, the way the oil flows, and
Yeah,
the way
absolutely.
all that goes, okay, now we might be turning right.
Correct.
I've talked to engine manufacturers, said the way that the journals are on the crank, it throws it both ways, so that
Okay.
would not be a problem. So
Well, if you
I'm
remember,
hearing a lot of
Well,
positive stuff. Is
I've
my
talked.
point.
I've talked to some of the cars guys that I know, and of course, I'm flying the race tonight for Flow, so I'll probably talk to some more of them. And all of them have said, "I think it is a awesome idea. I'm intrigued."
Yeah.
But they're not saying, yes. I mean, I
Well,
think
I'll
they want
just-
to learn more about it.
I'll just tell you what I think. So, how many times in not just Smart, but other series that you've been involved with, you don't need the driver's permission to
no,
schedule
no,
a race.
absolutely not.
No.
You just
Build
schedule it, and they come or they don't come.
Build it, and they will come.
And I
Exactly.
really believe this might be one of them situations where obviously got to make sure all the details are worked out.
Right.
You get all the details worked out, and you say, guys, here's the schedule next year.
Yeah.
Right.
And if you're mad and you don't like it and you don't want to come,
Don't
and you
come.
don't think it's a good idea, nobody's
Don't come.
twisting your arm to
Yeah,
come.
don't come. Stay home.
So I'm hoping that it gets to that point where But I don't think it will, because I think there's enough people who think it's a great idea.
Sure.
And as a racer, could we perfect it by testing there, by changing caster and camber, by doing all these things and checking different gears and
Yeah,
all
it's
this
gonna
stuff to
take
get
some
better and to
work.
get
Yeah.
faster and to perfect it? Absolutely. But if everybody's car is set up for the oval
Yes.
with the same gear, and everybody takes that same car and runs it on the road course, everybody's in the same boat. Now,
Absolutely.
is your tire temperature going to be perfect?
Nope.
Maybe not.
Mm-mm.
Is your caster going to be the right way to Maybe not. Is it going to be the ideal gear? Maybe not.
But that's the thing.
everybody's in the same boat.
It does level up the playing field
Yes.
because we all have the same thing. It's not that I said, Bert, you have to run your oval track setup on the road course, and
Right.
everybody else can do anything they want to do. Everybody has the same.
That's
thing.
exactly right.
Yes,
There
It's
you
like
go.
If they change the tire next year and y'all have to go to an F45, they didn't say, and you're going to be, man, I hate this F45. Everybody else does too, but we're all running the same jump.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Not that the 45s on a modified it might not be good at Bowman Gray,
Right.
but we've always done what we've done, and it's not like we've singled anybody out. So I think with lack of preparation, I think it will make the first one. It's going to kind of be like when we brought dirt back to Bristol. The first year it was epic
Yeah.
because everybody wanted to see, and we had that sportsman.
Well,
deal that
everybody
we
wants to
had.
see if it's going to be a success or a disaster.
Yeah, you know, we were there the week before the Cup cars were, and we had 1,100
Yes.
grassroots
Yeah.
race cars there. Kevin Powell ran it.
Yeah.
Best race I've ever seen Kevin
Yeah.
Powell run. KP, buddy, you were on it, man. My man had an opportunity to win this deal. But we had super late models there. We had crate. We had
Yeah.
But the first year, the novelty of it was great.
Yeah.
The next year, Barry put on the same deal. We had 300 race cars.
Right.
Everybody didn't want to travel from Iowa and Canada and everything
Right.
else to do it. I think the first year, the novelty of it will be awesome. If they put it on at the right place and the right time, I think it can be a monumental crowd. And it's definitely going to be intriguing for all of us to see. We know modifieds will turn right and left. You used to do it at Daytona when we were kids.
Yeah.
So I'd love to see it, to be honest
Yeah.
with you.
Well, we kind of covered just about everything there's to cover.
And
The
then
roller
some.
coaster.
Yeah.
We probably lost. There's a lot of people asleep right now.
Kim, Kim hitting tapping the screen to see how
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
much
Hit the
time's
fast
left.
button, so you'll be
Some-
good.
Devin does a good job too of editing and doing snippets.
He does. Yeah.
So Devin, we're counting on you to do a good job to tease people enough so they'll watch
Quick-
the whole thing.
Quick shout out, racefangear.com. All your Burt, Slate,
Citrusafe.
Citrusafe racing gear, one-stop shop. They make it easy. Still waiting on the diecast to come in. I think
I
last
think
I
it's
heard
getting
was
close.
August.
August is
next
what I was
month.
told, I think. Yeah.
So the diecast should be in tonight. Just a plug for Flow. They've got the Big Cars Tour night on tonight. Saturday night is the Smart Tour at Caraway, which is going to be a good race, big field. A lot of guys have not been racing for a while, so they're ready to go. A lot of bad decisions will be made, I'm sure. But no, as always, if you don't have anything,
No, you want to? You got a website?
Yeah, we do. It's Velocita. It's and here's the thing: your address bar is going to change it. It's going to change it to Velocity. That's not me. I have no idea who those guys are. It's Velocita. VELOCITA dash hyphen or minus sign, whichever you prefer to call it. USA.com. If you type in Velocita in Google, it'll immediately populate the website. There's a big July 4th sale we got going on right now. So jump on there. We've always got something exciting. If you don't follow us on social media, we just Apex 40,000 followers. Yeah, it's crazy. You got 40,000 followers, but your reach was 1.1 million. You're like, how do these numbers work? You know? So we just Apex 40,000, just did a big 40,000 suit giveaway. So if you guys don't follow us, it's not all sales stuff. There's tons of education on there. We talk about how to clean your suit, how to care for things, how helmets work. We talk about Snell certifications. We talk about SFI certifications. We do way more education. It's about a 70-30. About 70% of what we do is educating racers how to take care, regardless of brand.
Mhm.
So we just want to try to help keep our guys safe. We have a showroom in Welcome, North Carolina. We have a showroom in Central Square, New York. And we have one, and I'm going to say it wrong, Liz, I'm sorry, Killeen, Alabama, or Killeen, Alabama. We have 3 showrooms nationwide. Somebody's in those showrooms almost 5 days a week. Our office 336-764-8502. If you see one of our guys out, we have national field reps everywhere. We have dealers. We have 61 dealers nationwide. We're not hard to find. If you want to talk about safety, we'd love to get you on the phone.
just remember, racers really know what other racers want. So pay these guys some attention. When you're in the market, look up Velocita. It's a heartfelt company that does it for the right reasons. And there's a lot to be said for that.
And Burt Myers wears one too.
I do.
And I actually have a copy of his invoice, and he doesn't get them for free. So there you go.
I think Slate wears one too.
Slate wears one too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think
you know that was going to be
I
pretty.
think
Anyway,
I think at the stadium, I think in modified, I currently don't have 3 drivers. I don't have 3 drivers in modified. In sportsman, I think I don't have 1 driver. In street stock, I don't think we are missing anybody. And in stadium stock, most of the guys are still wearing greasy coveralls. No, we've got probably 2/3 of that field also. Right. So, for us, it's really not about the numbers. It's just making sure the guys are safe. And that's one of the things that we've offered to help with also is preseason safety inspection. Because a lot of guys will, man, again, safety is an afterthought. We don't want to turn a blind eye to that. Regardless of brand, regardless of manufacturer, make sure your stuff's up to date. Make sure it's clean. Make sure that you've got all your nuts and bolts. Don't ever think it can't happen to me. You're one ignition
There's plenty of people that can prove you otherwise.
Yeah. Years ago, Ted Christopher, we were at the North-South Shootout, and he came over, and he and I had kind of bumped into each other in practice, and we were just talking, and he said, "What's that button right there called?" I said, "That's the start button." He was talking about our start button. I said, "No." He said, "That's not right." I said, "The on button?" He said, "That's not right either." He said, "That's the commit button." And if today you're not prepared to leave this racetrack without this race car and possibly your life, don't ever touch that button. He turned around and walked away from my car. He wasn't wrong.
Fair enough.
Lies.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see what we have next week. We got some stuff in the works.
Yeah, I got some stuff working. Got a really cool guest coming on the 23rd.
Yeah, I think that's right.
23rd. Got don't want to tell yet.
No,
He committed.
Yeah.
So that'll be a fun one.
That'll be a real fun one. Yeah.
That'll be a fun one. But it's funny because I kind of like, you know me, I kind of like doing it on the fly anyway. So we signed, I think I texted you
Sunday.
And
you didn't get a response.
Yeah. And then I talked to him Monday.
Yeah.
And said, "Hey, what do you think?" "Yeah, sure." So it's kind of fun to, because I like to do it on a whim. And when they asked me who I thought, I was like, "Yeah, Brad would be a cool one." Because
thanks for having me.
Not just because,
well, you got a lot in common.
not just because of your brand.
Yeah.
And me and Slate represent your brand, but like I said, we're both racers.
We've
We've
raced
come from the same cloth.
each other, absolutely,
you
man.
know, grassroots, and so yeah, had a good time. Sorry to the people who've been touching the screen because of my little 20-minute rant at the very beginning. But
No,
I
it needed to be said.
I think it
needed to be said.
I'm sorry if you fast forwarded it or touched your screen. I'm sorry, but we had to go through that. Just some housekeeping that we had to do. So yeah, glad to have you back. I know I'll be gone the week of the 13th.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what you got planned that week, but
I think Mike Helton's coming on.
oh yeah, cool,
Yeah.
cool. So
He
anyway, I'll let you close out. But thanks to everybody from our end.
Brad, Thank you.
Thanks for having
Appreciate
us,
it,
man. It was
Bert.
a lot
Good
of
luck
fun.
this weekend.
Yeah,
Slate,
thanks.
good luck this weekend. And as always, we appreciate you all tuning in. Let us know where you're watching from. All comments are welcome, good or bad. And I guess we'll see you next Wednesday. Hopefully we'll have a new trophy sitting back here.
That'd be
from Smart
nice.
Tour, a Smarty.
Smarty, that'd be cool.
It won't be for lack of effort. But
Yeah.
until then, we appreciate it. Hope everybody stays safe, and we'll see you soon.